they are presenting. So in that case, my co-chair, Madam Shatrupa Palit, is not keeping well. So I take this initiative, and please don't mind if I disturb you and I say that please stop, your time is over. So kindly keep your watches ready, and please stick to the timings. I would request, so that everybody gets a fair share of time for expression. Is that okay with all of you? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, madam.
Okay. So, as I go through this list, I find that this is the session that is indigenous knowledge implying scientific and technological skills. We will end this session at 1:30. We have with us reporters Jimli Nath and Baivalang Tensong. There are two reporters. I would request to the reporters to please, if you have the controls, you can mute the participant after the time 5 minutes is up. Please forgive me if I am rude, but we need to keep the track of time. And the first I invite in the series, not taking much of your time, I invite Isha Chaurasia, with whose title of paper is The Development of Perception of Responsible Consumption and Eco-Friendly Production, pursuing co-curricular activities up at upper primary level. Isha Chaurasia.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, shall I start my presentation?
Yes, sure, please.
Ma'am, is it visible?
No. It's not visible.
Ma'am, now?
Yes, now it is starting.
Greetings of the day, everyone. Today, myself, Isha Chaurasia, is going to present a paper on the theme Teacher Education for Holistic School Education Possibilities and Challenges. Under the sub-theme Teacher Preparation for Vocational Education. When we look in and around and observe that only genes creating pollution, so we have tried to use it. Now the title of our paper is Developing Prescriptions for Responsible Consumption and Eco-Friendly Products, Pursuing Co-Curriculum Activities at Upper Primary Level. Now the objectives of our project is to inculcate the concepts of 3 R's among students of upper primary level through work experience, to address habits of least pollution, to encourage group activities for SUPW, social, useful, effective products, to realize that each of the students is intricate parts of our society, to understand that the materials prepared should be useful and can be used for living as well. Now, the methods and procedure can use reuse of use by leveling to during students. The fabric is first connected. The cast of chalk to almost dude like the chalked fabrics then mixed with water in a beater and beaten for 3 to 4 hours. The bubbles so formed put in net of hydric weight machine. These subject under pressing machine to dry extra water. Then dried under sun. The ready paper is properties could be studied. This algorithm process of making. Now, the resultant discussion to assess the quality of the chart paper so formed some sample tests will be conducted. So we have in result and description, we have, through this screw gauge, we have first measured the thickness of the paper, of the jeans paper, and we have then, according to their strength, we have created these products. Uh, first, first we have matched these papers and then put it in a beater, in a and then we have dried in a scope and give the paper to these kinds of shape. This is the raw product of the paper. It's like clay-like. Am I visible, ma'am?
Yes, you are visible, but I want you to hurry up and quicken your show your findings quickly because you already
Okay.
surpassed the time.
Okay. Okay. Please. Now the result. Thickness we have measured by screw gauge and it was 0.36 m is measured by meter corresponding of fabric structure making pressure. It affects almost all properties of the paper. Then GMS gram per meter square, length 7.73 meter, breadth 6.64 meter, weight itna GMS weight by LM 1821 gram per meter square. The sheet could be used to make file covers, jewelry box, etc. Tensile loadings of a strips of the chart paper, length 0.17 centimeter, breadth 1.5 meter, mass 4.1 gram, breaks at 450, showing the strength of the fabrics. Measuring the break strength of a strip 17 into 1.5 into 0.32 centimeter. The tensile strength when wet sheet length 17 centimeter, breadth 1.5, mass is equal to paper plus water soap 5.26. Breaks at 550 grams. This feature is important for preparing hanging objects like shopping bags. pH identification, aqueous solution is tested with pH papers. pH value was 7.5. Slightly alkaline can keep rotors away if made more alkaline.
Thank you, Isha. You have exceeded your time. Thank you for your presentation. You can stop sharing the screen. And
Thank you.
now I invite Suman Kalyan Panja, and his topic title of paper is Swayamukh, Higher Education and School Education, a Crossroad. I would request I would request Sumanji to please stick to time. I have set an alarm of 5 minutes, and I also request the rapporteurs to kindly mute the person who is exceeding 5 minutes. It sounds a bit rude, but we need to give equal time to all. Well, yes. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and your presentation is visible. Myself, Swan Kalyan Paja, Department of Education, Assam University, Silchar. The title of the presentation is Swayamukh, Higher Education and School Education at Crossroad. Since time is very limited, so I'll very quick up my presentation. The objective of the research is to examine the scope of higher education, school education to Swayamukh. Accordingly, the research is done based on the sole research question. This is the research framework. It is done through grounded theory with a focus on self-regulated learning and qualitative approach is followed here. Method of the research, we basically examine meta-analysis. We did that to find out the research gap.
And then secondary data analysis was done from the website of our Indigenous MOOC platform, SWAYAM, and associated national coordinators. Now I'm very quickly coming up to the point. This is the national coordinator, these are, and the major thrust area. And we have categorized them in two ways. One is the school education and other is the higher education. From this screen, it is clearly visible that
Sir, may
majority.
I interrupt? May I interrupt? Your screen is not moving. Your presentation is not moving. Please see to that.
Okay, okay,
We are only able to see the first slide of your presentation.
okay, okay.
Yes, now it's moving.
Okay. Uh, I was talking about this slide. Is it okay, ma'am?
Yes, yes, perfectly all right.
Now the thing is, if we consider the national coordinators, out of these 9 national coordinators, only these 2 are covering school education, whereas the other 7 are considered, nourishing the higher education section. So from this very qualitative picturization, we can say it is very much uh, a greater scope is there for higher education. Uh, so I move. Now, this is again, I thought of putting some more data because it is very much practical oriented. So some data is presented over here, and from the website, it was we examined that some archive data and some current data are available. Now, considering this archive data, this is the section, and this is current semester data. Uh, After examining this slide carefully, this next slide will give us a better picture about the objective. Now, I have compared regarding the availability of the courses. Out of those 9 coordinators, these 2 coordinators actually covering less than 7% of the content related to school education. This is again the same data related to current semester data. And regarding the availability of courses, the figure remain more or less same. So thus considering the availability of courses, we can say the SWAYAM MOOC is there is a greater scope for higher education with respect to school education. Now regarding accessibility by the students, this is the student enrollment, this blue one, and the red one is indicating the exam registration. Now, from this picture, these 2 pictures, it is showing that with respect to student enrollment, exam registration is very insignificant, and that is indicating towards another problem, that is this dropout ratio. In fact, the figure is within 2%, and whereas global problem is actually within 5%. So these 2 pictures, actually from meta-analysis, it is triangulated that MOOC is more relevant for higher education, and this dropout ratio, it is also not the Indian problem, it is a global problem regarding online learning or MOOC learning. So, based on these challenges regarding school education, some recommendations are provided here. The higher authorities should take up more initiative in setting up more institutions which will remain dedicated for the development of school education, infrastructural development, addition of more fund, manpower planning, those are very much important. The existing coordinator may coordinate with more institutions alike so that the availability of resources go up. So these are the things. And educational implications, some implications are definitely there. So move is and is ultimately it may create more awareness through this research. People may, they regulate their self-regulated learning and career planning or career advancement. And from these 2 pictures, figure 1A and B, the availability of school education content is relative.
Sir, your time is over. Thank you. Thank you for a very good paper which you have presented. And it is, I could see that it had a relevant data, and you have taken a lot of pains. So thank you very much, sir. You may remove your, you may stop sharing your slides. Now, in the sequence which is provided to me, we have Manisha Singh and Biswajit Behra presenting ethno-medical practices towards sustainable education, proposed solution for integration into curriculum. Again, I would like to remind to please be very brief and take care of the time.
Yes, ma'am.
You may start.
Okay. A warm good afternoon, everyone, to respected dignitaries and the fellow presenters. My name is Manisha Singh, and I'm currently pursuing my Masters in Education from Central University of Punjab, Bhatinda. And I'm thankful for NERIE for giving me the opportunity. So share my screen. So my topic for today is ethno-medicinal practices towards sustainable education, proposed solutions for integration into the curriculum. So, as we know that one of the biggest challenges in managing our ecosystem and creating a sustainable future in continually changing world, so there is a very important need for sustainability. So many indigenous peoples are using different plants and herbs for preparation of these kind of medicines called as ethnomedicines. So they require high understanding of the and practices over which is gained over a large period of time or a long period of time, and promotion of these practices and innovations into the community or into the curriculum or education is very much needed. So I'm going to explain the ways and the means in which integration of ethnomedicinal medicinal practices into the curriculum can be done through mapping. So if we talk about indigenous science, what is indigenous science? It's a process by which indigenous people differ from the independent science. It's the science which deals with the real life application of knowledge about the world. If we talk about indigenous knowledge is traditional. Indigenous knowledge is also called native knowledge. So it's a cultural knowledge or society, culture, or civilization that has been developed from generations to generations. The NEP also suggested that it will be a game changer in coming years. It will give us the structural change from early childhood care to higher education if we implement the indigenous knowledge into our curriculum. It can give the philosophical dimensions to our curriculum and the policies. Irrespective of the diverse cultures and values, there is a one uniqueness in India in indigenous knowledge, and incorporating indigenous knowledge can have a very positive impact on the student values and attitude towards the Indian medicine, which has a root in healing and care. So, if we talk about what is ethnomedicine, while growing with the civilization, the human society is also influenced by the great degree of plant kingdom. So with growth civilization, human society is also influenced by it, and one of the prominent examples of indigenous knowledge is ethnomedicines, which has an impact on the indigenous communities. In India, people has a rich history of traditional knowledge, and it has been passed as a repository from generations to generations. It has given a written record. Ethnomedicine has a medical belief system and practice of indigenous knowledge. What is sustainable education? Sustainable education is an aspect of learning, not traditional beliefs. Sustainable education is very different from other subjects. Basically, sustainable education is critical for all the students from today and to face the tomorrow challenges. Sustainable education should be dealt in a multidisciplinary way, and it always extends beyond the classroom. It teaches students the practical skills that help them apply into the real world to make it a better place. So I'll directly jump into the sustainable education and integration. How should be integrated into the curriculum? Sustainable education should be provided opportunity in problem solving and real life situations. There should be participatory learning, collaborative learning, and interactive platforms should be provided for all the students. there is no correct pedagogy if we talk about sustainable education, because as it is getting integrated into our curriculum, the pedagogy should also be developed, and there is a need of shift towards the active and participatory and experiential learning to engage the learner to make it into the curriculum. So there is a mapping of curriculum integration which includes ethno-medicinal practices, the key points, the sustainable education, global curriculum, and well-being. So now we'll talk about how to integrate ethno-medicinal
Well,
practices.
I'm sorry, Manisha ji.
Yes,
The buzzer, it's already, you have already exceeded 5 minutes. So I'll request you to please wind up. I'm very sorry, but please prepare, please don't waste much time on introduction and all. And please come to what your paper has to convey. That would be in the benefit of all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Manisha ji. It was an interesting paper by you and Dr. Biswajit Behra. And now in the list provided, I required I request Mr. Palanya Sami C. Improving the understanding of disaster management for ninth grade students through information technology. You may, Manisha ji, you may stop presenting. Yes.
Good morning to one and all. I am Ravi Shankar from Tamil Nadu. My paper is Improving the Understanding of Disaster Management for 9th grade students through information technology.
Sir, 1 minute. The name here mentioned is Mr. Palanya.
Instead of Palisamy, I am the presenter. My name is Ravi Shankar.
Okay.
Co-author.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
co-author of the paper. I am the co-author.
Okay, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, my topic is improving the understanding of disaster management for 9th grade. Keywords is disaster management, awareness, and types of disaster. Objectives of the study: to identify the current level of understanding of disaster management by pre-test. Second one, to improve the understanding of disaster management through information technology. Third one, to assess the understanding level of disaster management after intervention by post-test. Methodology is field survey and experimental method. Need and significance of the study is disaster awareness and management skills are essential to expedite relief efforts in times of calamity, to avoid future fatalities, to protect property from major damages, and no further refine operations. Awareness and improving skills, especially among school children, are equivalent to teaching for a generation. Explaining disaster prevention measures as per Nagapattinam District Survey Report in the National Directory NAS 2017 survey, and also the learning outcomes of social science 703 explains preventive actions to be undertaken in the event of disasters. Are on average only 19% of students in the learning outcome answered questions in a way that demonstrated adequate awareness and ability. Therefore, to address these issues and to raise awareness of disaster management among students, so this action research needs to be taken. Interventions are produce slides and videos on disaster management and improve understanding. First one, disaster facing before the disaster, during the disaster, and after the disaster. Second one, disaster management cycle. Third one, earthquake, tsunami, and riots and fire. How we can move data analysis? I do the average in percentage and scale of effort.
Please share the finding. Please share the finding.
Findings is students get explanations and awareness on disaster management. Second one is natural disaster and man-made disaster, knew their types. Third one, disaster types such as earthquake, tsunami, and fire have gained awareness about its protection methods. Last one, awareness of safety measures to be taken in schools. Implications are Nagapattinam district is being hit hard by the natural calamity, and coping with this calamity remains in major challenges. However, disaster management is about knowing the nature of disaster and implementing strategies to help them get rid of the hazards they cause. A natural disaster is beyond human power. However, it is essential that everyone, including students, acquire natural disaster awareness and management skills. Recommendations are disaster management must begin at home, in communities, and in schools. Education institutions play a crucial role in shaping children's minds to become responsible citizens in the future. The topic of disaster must be learned by children at an early age to reduce the vulnerabilities to disasters. The culture of prevention is also important to everyone, neither youth, adult, or seniority. In hazards
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You exceeded your time and a very good work which you have done, and you have presented it very briefly, and you have given the highlights also. So I thank you for sticking to the time limit and also presenting in a very comprehensive manner. Then I request and invite Dr. Tulika De on her paper. The topic of her paper is Sustaining Natural Hazards Through Traditional Wisdom, a case of Missing Community of Assam. Tulika ji, I welcome you and also request you to kindly stick to time.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairperson, and good afternoon to all the esteemed participants, both online and offline, who are present here. Yes, I'm here to present my paper, Sustaining National Hazards Through Traditional Wisdom, a case of missing community of Assam in India. Assam, as we all know, is a multi-hazard state prone to floods, earthquakes, storms, and landslides, besides all the human-induced disasters. The major river out there is the river Brahmaputra, and its tributaries, number of tributaries flows through the plains of Assam. And many communities dwell on the banks of these rivers. And floods regularly, a spell of 5 to 6, sometimes even 7 spells of floods are witnessed every year in Assam. And because of this, the banks of the rivers are also very susceptible to landslides. This missing community also is a tribal community which dwells along these river valleys, and because the land is very fertile and agriculture is the main economy of them. But because of the frequent floods, they have not been able to climb the economic ladder much. The Assam government's main flood management system has been focused on building embankments, but these embankments do not serve much purpose, as the embankments are breached often by the high intensity of floods and low quality of construction. And as a measure to combat the flood situation, the missing community has developed its own strategy in the form of community preparedness and building resilience. And while conducting some field trips to Upper Assam in the Nameri area, we gathered a lot of information via questionnaires, both visual and textual forms, and the spontaneous conversation that we had with the villagers, the traditional knowledge and the scientific basis of using bamboo as a building material has also been worked out. These are my sample, but I do not want to dwell much on it. The population structure and how they have done. I would like to come directly to my findings. The missing people have been seen to be storing their food and saving money for the bad times that they face every year. And they keep themselves informed about the flood situations and the early warnings that are given to from time to time by the government machinery, the district administration, and preparative measures they do take. Sometimes even using their folk beliefs, they observe the animal behavior, and those observational experiences also they take as early warning. The missing, with over centuries of coexistence with the floods, have developed their innovative and adaptive measures to combat the flood situations. They do not focus on fighting the floods. Instead, their community lays its focus on preparedness to deal with the hard times and the living style of the community, right from their housing architecture to the paddy cultivation to the organization of the village. Everything talks about their disaster preparedness. So the designing of the house, granaries, and how they domesticate their animals. All this is a glimpse of the missing traditional house, which we call it as Changhar. In the entire Assam, it is called as Changhar, but the community's traditional name is Kare Okam. This is how the lower part of the house is used to provide shelter to pet animals. I think you can see here on this that they have used with the corrugated sheets for the domestication of animals, and the floor of the houses are raised to an elevated more to the heights of the about 5 to 6 feet at the chest level of a medium-sized or male person, we can say. And even sometimes they are so raised that the handloom activities carried out by the women folk are also carried below this floor. Apart from the main house, there is a traditional granary on raised platform even, which saves the food grains from the flood as well as from the elephants who very commonly attack the villages, the rodents and the floods also. And in a house and essential household equipments and articles are stored in order. You can see this, the houses are like this, the roofs are thatched, 30 to 40 meter long, and there will be essentially 2 main doors. See this, the main attraction of these houses are their kitchen. They do not have a drawing room kind of a system. The kitchen is at the central part of the house where all flock together, they talk, they spend their time. And see the floor. They are made with the bamboo sticks with a certain gap which allows airflow right from the bottom to the top. And the kitchen is like this, where things are kept in order. A typical missing house has certain key layers from the roof to the floor. It should be from the floor to the roof, and each layer has some serving purpose. And this fireplace is called meram. Above the meram you can see there are many layers. It is called perab and rabon, where in the perab they store the meat of the pig and chicken or whatever for the future use. And these layers are made there with the jute or with the cane they tie up. And because it is above the fireplace, it is generally used to smoke the meat and the fish that they store for future use. And thus they preserve. Above the perab is the rabon, where pots filled with beer. You can see here the pots, beer are kept. All is for the future use. And at the top you can see it is the uppermost part where the dry vegetables like potatoes, garlic, onions, white gourd and pumpkins are stored for future use. Now, because these layers are above the fireplace, the smokes keep these items free from bacteria and fungus, while the thatched roof that they have provide the cooling effect so they do not boil or steam up. So it can be stored for future use. Now, this is how it helps in during the flood times. So these do not destroy the granary or the household items. They also have a what called.
This is a very, very interesting study coming up,
Yes.
but I just ask you to request you to please wind up quickly.
Yes, ma'am. This is the front porch where during the flood times, if there is people who do not have raised houses, they come to these places and take shelter. And okay, I will just go to the recommendation. The paper has everything full. The similar houses can be seen in the Meghalaya also. And this is from a picture from the Riboi district of Meghalaya. The scientific community needs to understand the scientific basis of the traditional wisdom of the missing community And this architectural skill in designing their houses can be modified by using the scientific knowledge of processed bamboo as a construction material. And the experience of the missing community and the preparedness could definitely provide few lessons on preparedness in living with floods in other parts of India. The architectural type of houses may be integrated into the school curriculum, where different types of houses are designed due to climatic influences and the living condition of the people and eco-friendly lifestyle. This can be integrated as disaster preparedness technique in disaster-prone areas. And thank you. With the hand holding, they can do very good.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tulika, for a very effective presentation with pictures.
Thank
Please
you,
hold
ma'am.
back the water. And now I invite Richa Kumari and Dr. Biswajit Behera for the next paper, 21st Century Skills in Mathematics Perspective for Curriculum Integration. So I would request you to please stick to the time. Richa Kumari and Dr. Biswajit Behera. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Please start.
I hope it is visible, ma'am. So, good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Richa Kumari, and I am here to present the topic that is 21st century skill in Vedic Mathematics perspective for curriculum integration. So, this paper introduces the idea of integrating indigenous knowledge in mathematical curriculum. So the indigenous knowledge that is practiced by people and present different instruction strategies that could be used to integrate indigenous knowledge. The strategies must be on the people experiences of effective teaching traditional knowledge to young children to their family. So here, therefore, a comprehensive framework of calibration and integration in the curriculum is suggested. So coming to the intro, so mathematics is always considered as a subject of logic, which deal with shape, size, data, and patterns. The mathematical knowledge not only help in the solving the problems, mathematical problem, but also the real life problem in more systematic way. By having mathematical knowledge, students can see the world around them in more critical way. They can analyze the thing in more systematic way. So yeah, in school, mathematics is linked with what children had already studied before. When children used to come to school, they already have some sort of knowledge in mathematics. So in curriculum, we need to improvise it and find it different way to make it more enjoyable for the students. Mathematical knowledge we are using mathematical knowledge in different aspects of life. For example, people use ratio and proportion to make right measurement for any recipe. Suppose we have to cook something, we need half a cup of milk. Then we used to measure how to take half cup of anything, and depending on the size of cup, it's all estimation. This all comes under the mathematical skills. So these are the several mathematical skills we are using without realizing it. Coming to the conceptual orientation, so according to the UNESCO Program on Local and Indigenous Knowledge System, indigenous knowledge refers to understanding, skill, and philosophy developed by local communities with long historical and experience of interaction with their natural surroundings. Now I want to jump directly on the according to NEP, the national according to NEP, the knowledge of India, which include knowledge from ancient India, is its contribution to the modern India and its success and challenges, and a clear sense of India's future aspiration concerning education, health, and environment. So here we are mainly focusing on how these skills can help students. These mathematical skills, which are also known as 21st century skills. In this paper, we are mainly focused on three skills, which are critical thinking skill, problem solving skills, and creativity. So these are the prominent skills that can be easily developed by practicing mathematics in real life, mathematical real life problems. One of the indigenous knowledge in mathematics, that is Vedic mathematics, which is an ancient system of calculation. It directs students to get their own methods to solve the problems. It helps learner to deal with more challenging problems. So, what are the how these skills can improve their understanding? So these are the study questions. What kind of 21st century skill are fused in Vedic mathematics, and how the 21st century skills can be integrated into the curriculum? So Vedic mathematics learning. Vedic mathematics learning is ancient system of Indian mathematics, which is one of the popular indigenous knowledge.
I think, Richa ji, time is up, and
So ma'am,
you-
I'm coming to the conclusion.
please, please don't read out the things. Just come to the conclusion.
Okay, ma'am. So Indigenous knowledge help in build on children's mathematical knowledge and experience with an inquiry-based approach, developing purposeful and meaningful mathematics skill, experience in classroom through mind mapping, Sudoku games, and puzzles. So these are the main things through which we can introduce these things in our curriculum. This knowledge is rarely used, and bringing a successful integration aiming at indigenous knowledge in 21st century skill will require a fundamental change in instruction practices, which is only possible with the help of society members and policymakers. Here, the main implications are focused on three stages: school students, and teachers' education, and curriculum developers. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Richa ji. Thank you for explaining the perspectives for curriculum integration of 21st century skills in mathematics. Now, I invite this is the presenter number 7, Priyanka, coach, a study on indigenous knowledge among the missing women of Lakshmipur district, Assam, and its linkage to the formal curriculum. Priyanka ji, please join.
Yes, ma'am.
Your time starts now.
Yes, ma'am. Warm greetings to everyone present for this session today. I am Priyanka Kus from the Department of Education, Tezpur University. And my topic for the presentation today is a study on indigenous knowledge among the missing women of Lakhimpur district, Assam, and its linkage to the formal school curriculum. So much has already been talked about the indigenous knowledge systems and its importance in the context of incorporation in the school curriculum. I would like to begin my presentation with a quote which says that when an old person dies, a library burns to the ground. So we are all familiar with this quote, which is from an African proverb. So the Missings are one of the largest ethnic communities in the state of Assam after the Boros. They reside in the riverine areas in and around the Brahmaputra Valley of Assam, with most of the population concentrated in the Lakhimpur and Dhemaji districts. So missing women, they have an important role in preserving the culture, which is mainly through their involvement in handicraft. Along with this, in a way, they also play an important role in sustaining the family through the weaving work, which girls generally begin from a very small age. So now I would like to come to the objectives of the study. The first one is to understand the different sources of indigenous knowledge among the missing community. The second is to understand the ways in which indigenous knowledge among the missing women can be integrated in the curriculum. The third objective of the study is to understand the different problems that might arise in the way of integration of indigenous knowledge in the curriculum. And the fourth is to study the linkage, if any, between indigenous knowledge and education among the missing girls. And the fifth objective of the study is study the prospects of indigenous knowledge on the overall living of the missing women. So the study is mainly based upon secondary sources of data, which includes different policy documents, with main reference being taken from the National Education Policy 2020, along with the field visit by the researcher to the site, which is Lakhimpur district of Assam. The tools of the study generally comprise of focus group discussion, interview schedule, and questionnaire. So some of the measured results and discussion or the findings of the study are the findings of the study has grouped by some of the important aspects relating to the indigenous knowledge of the missing women and its incorporation in the curriculum, which is through weaving along with other sustainable practices like the preserving grains during one particular time of the year so that they can survive the month so that they can survive during the monsoons, because this community, as I have already mentioned, they stay in the riverine areas, so they suffer from different flood related problems. That is the main reason they carry out different sustainable practices. So now I would come to the recommendations for school curriculum, which I feel is very essential. So students will be able to relate the concepts learned in the textbook everyday life. This would also ensure community participation through wider dissemination of resources, community linkage with school, respect cultures of local communities, focus on skill development, promote local spaces of plants, global citizens with universal values. So these are some of the recommendations that has been mentioned or made for the school curriculum. So I would like to conclude by saying that it is very essential that emphasis be given on the livelihood opportunities through linkage to the curriculum. Along with this, focus should be on developing Indian ethos, as has been mentioned in the policy, which requires adequate participation of guardians who should be very conscious. Along with that, resource rooms are to be present in schools with display of different exhibits of tribal communities pertaining to the understanding of indigenous knowledge system, along with creating a pool of experts and resource persons to help students develop adequate interest in learning and understanding indigenous knowledge systems of communities. So, I would like to conclude my presentation today by expressing my gratitude to NERI for giving me this wonderful opportunity to present my research work. Thank you all.
And thank you so much. I was going to hit the snooze button on my watch.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
was putting an alarm. And thank you so much for presenting it so well. And about
ma'am.
the livelihood approaches, which you said, this is a very, very important point. And keeping a tab of time.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Priyanka ji. Now I invite Mrs. Suma A. The topic of her paper is Building Resilience through Local Wisdom, Assuring Teacher Preparedness in Disaster Mitigation Knowledge. Mrs. Suma. Hey Siri.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Is it visible, ma'am? Is it visible?
No, your presentation is not visible.
Okay, ma'am. 1 minute, ma'am. it visible, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Respected chairs and all dear participants, good afternoon to one and all. I'm Suma A. from Department of Education, University of Calicut, Kerala. The topic of my paper is Building Resilience through Local Wisdom, Assuring Teacher Preparedness in Disaster Mitigation Knowledge. I'm going straight into the rationale of the study. And India was regarded as one of the safest countries in the world.
Your screen is visible, and in screen you please open your presentation, otherwise it's not visible. Whatever is on your screen, that is visible, and the paper is not showing. Please open the presentation
The PowerPoint.
on the desktop.
Okay, I opened it, ma'am.
Anyway, then you can
It's
speak,
not-
otherwise it will take time.
Okay.
You speak without.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. I'll present it. So India was regarded as one of the safest countries of the world in terms of the human life because it is less prone to the disasters, natural disasters or man-made disasters happening. But nowadays, recently, our country is frequent in terms of disasters happening, and the statistics we are getting is not at all promising. After all, the Disaster Management Authority formed after the 2005 Act of Disaster Management, there were a lot of genuine efforts taking place which helped to include disaster education as a core subject area to be studied in the school curriculum itself and in the higher education level too. And this paper is actually a thematic intervention which investigate how teacher preparation program can be incorporated with the local knowledge exhibited by the fishermen community across the coastal region of Kerala. And there were some of the points through which we can continue. The first one is the formation of seasonal calendar to forecast disasters. The fishermen community have a special knowledge in forming a seasonal calendar, which helped them to explain the difference and the changes in the nature and behavior of the marine environment so that they can help to prevent themselves from go for fishing and getting into the adversities of the marine environment. And this is another indigenous knowledge, that is a historical and intimate knowledge of marine environment. The people in that community feels them as the kids of ocean, and they love to find ocean as a goddess so that they won't allow anybody to pollute the ocean, such as doing activities like mining or putting plastics into the ocean. So eventually, progressively, it will help to prevent man-made hazards and consequently decrease the risk of any type of disaster here. And there were certain natural early warning signs. The community people could understand and sense certain unusual signs shown by birds and animals along the way. These signs give them enough time to get a rescue in some more safer places in case of disasters. And they were mastering some marine related skills and like boat maneuvering, swimming and rock climbing, so that they can escape from a sudden emergency or a disaster. This type of local knowledge is transferred to the next generation not by any document or written manual, but through the vocal communication of the older people with the next generation, so that every member of the community is well aware of what to do when an emergency comes through certain signals attached. The meaning of the signal attached to every symbol is learned by the community members, and the evacuation drills also, they know how to design evacuation program. And the community members were well trained.
I'll request you to please wind up. I request you to please wind up. I think she has ended abruptly, but I now invite. This was her paper conveyed a lot of important information. That is, all the indigenous knowledge which she was mentioning has to be recorded somewhere. Otherwise, it goes with the generation because it is stored only. It is transmitted vocally So there is no repository or no storage of this. Very important finding which she has pointed out and which has been echoed in the earlier papers also. Thank you, Mrs. Suma. Now I invite Alisha Marba Rani. Her paper is Indigenous Based Forest Management System, a study of Mauplang Sacred Grove in Meghalaya. I would request you to kindly, Alisha ji, I would just request you to kindly tell the main focus of your study and the main findings of your study. And
Okay.
please don't read the PowerPoint presentation, that takes more time. Since you do the study, you explain it very well. That is a better way of explaining.
Okay, very good afternoon to each and everyone present here. My paper title is Indigenous Based Forest Management System, a study of Mauplang Sacred Grove in Meghalaya, which me and along with my guide, Dr. Nabrun Purkayasta, will be presenting. So every indigenous culture is important and unique for community resource. So indigenous communities always depend upon their resources and culture. This Mauplang Sacred Grove is considered to be a sacred forest and it is owned by the community under the Hima Mauplang. Both primary and secondary sources of data is used for this study purpose. So this paper highlights the Khasi indigenous community and the initiative to protect the Mauplang Sacred Grove. So this is the Mauplang Sacred Groves. Now sacred groves or sacred forests are any area or site or group of trees which hold spiritual or religious importance. For thousands of years, Khasi customs and traditions are interconnected with forest areas. Among these forests is the sacred groves of Mauplang. People here are not allowed to grab or withdraw anything away from this forest. This forest is also a place for sacrificial sites where people would perform rites and rituals here. And this was where the Khasi kings and
Alisha, your slides are not moving.
okay. This is where the Khasi kings and ceremonial leaders have their meetings. Whereas there has been a vast number of eco-friendly studies.
We are not
of
able to
sacred
see your slides, Alisha. Please press enter so that the slides move, or F5, put on slideshow.
Okay, ma'am. Is it visible?
No, only the first title is visible.
Okay, I'll do it without presentation, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Your presentation was appearing very beautiful.
So this is a Mauplang Sacred Grove. In India, whereas there has been a vast number of eco-friendly studies of sacred groves in India, the cultural aspects of sacred groves have not yet been studied in particular and in detail. So viewing at how local residents look at sacred grove, it is very crucial to determine how these forest areas should be protected and managed in the near future. My study area is the Mauplang Sacred Grove, which can be found in East Khasi Hills district and is located at about 25 kilometers away from Shillong. Constructed on the basis of faith, it is seen that within the shade of the Khasi community in Mauplang, there are usually two types of groups of people who take their sacred forests in a different way. We have the indigenous groups who wants to preserve their sacred forest through its customary practices and rituals, since it is connected to their belief system. And there is another group of people who has the idea to attain political power within the administrative setup. And these people, they want to take over or control these natural resources for their own personal use and benefits. In addition to these two groups, there has also been a tug of war between the autonomous district council members and the members of the indigenous political institutions under the Hima Mauplang, with the main issue being the management of the Mauplang forests. So we can see the tug of war of power for both the administrative level and also at the religious cultural level. a little bit about the Moplang sacred forest is that it is called a sacred forest, and it is worshipped by the Khasi people. It is managed by the Moplang village Darbar. It falls under the jurisdiction of the Hima Mopla. Religious-wise, people have always lived in harmony, and in the Hima Moplang, they have the Senkhasi organization, which has always tried to preserve the traditional culture. There also exists another group, the Christian Khasis, whose main aim is to only get a hold of projects based on biodiversity. So the followers of both these indigenous Senkhasi faith and Christianity strive for political power within the administrative setup. Tourism business and tourist sectors have also flourished in this place. Youth are very much engaged in being local guides for tourists, because we have a large number of tourists coming to this place and guest house accommodations. Overall, the villagers' inventiveness for preservation of sacred forests are quite commendable and applaudable. Hence, all people have showed their efforts. We could clearly see how a community can maintain heritage because of the customary rules, and we can also see how this in turn leads to sustainability. From the above discussion, it can be concluded that since ancient times, the Khasis have practiced their traditional culture. They have had a huge number of cultural resources in which they try to restore by some cultural practices. They guard it through different folk tales and have a strong belief, especially in protecting their deities. The cultural practices makes it easier for them to keep safe their environment. So this study shows an example and a different view of how a community can sustain its natural resources only through its customary regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you for a very nice study which you have conducted and presented so well. And it again highlights the importance of preserving the practices through the community participation. Thank you very much for keeping a tab of time also. A good paper, I would say. Now I request participant number 10, S. Slokamani. Again, the indigenous knowledge implying scientific and technological skills, health science and ethno-medical practices. So I would request you to, again, as I'm requesting every participant to keep a tab of time. And your time starts now.
Warm good afternoon to one and all present here. I'm Logamani from Tamil Nadu. My topic is health science and ethno-medicinal practices under the theme of indigenous knowledge implying scientific and technological skills. Considering the significance of indigenous knowledge system towards addressing the key environment concerns in this paper, an attempt has to be undertaken to address the indigenous knowledge system for health science and ethno-medicinal practices. This paper deals with how the indigenous knowledge interfering scientific and technological skills in education. Particularly, this paper describes about how we can bring out more awareness in health science during this pandemic situation and ethno-medicinal practices by using indigenous knowledge. Traditional knowledge on ethno-medicinal practice is slowly eradicating. The exploration, identification, documentation, and utilization of ethno-medicinal resources are essential for restoration and preservation so that we could transform our history and tradition to our next generation. So in this aspect, I have taken this topic. So I wish to stimulate scientific attitude among my students. I wish to give more knowledge about ethno-medicinal practices and transform the ethno-medicinal practices to the next generation. These are some aims of my topic. This pandemic situation urged me to give more knowledge about traditional medicinal practices. As I am a teacher, I have the responsibility to make healthy and hygienic society. So I have selected this topic. My objectives are making healthy and hygienic society, getting more knowledge about the medicinal practices, creating awareness to use local resources, utilizing our traditional medicines to prevent from disease. So for this, I have selected some teaching methodologies. cultural events, visiting home gardens and school gardens, meeting the village people, data collections, ICT tools, videos, project herbarium, taking survey from others.
You may come to the findings. Logamani ji, you can come to the findings.
So from this cultural events, I have some findings. Okay, these are all my findings. While we visiting the village, we met older people. So these are all my traditional medicines and its users. Karpuravalli, then mint, Ilagatakali, Mudakatan, Siriyanangai, Pilanalli. So these are the traditional medicines where we lived in the same village. So these are ICT tool video links I have used to create awareness among my students. So after this is the correct findings. After visiting all the school gardens, village people, my children got interested to make a school garden with the medicinal plants. So this is complete feedback of my full research paper. Considering the time, just I skipped this videos. So after this, I made
show one video. You can show one video. You have time, 2 minutes.
Okay, this is my conclusion. Textbook committee, policy makers and curriculum framers, if they concentrate on indigenous knowledge, we can give effective transformation in education system. Transformation should be not only vocally, stories, songs, dance, carvings and paintings. So utilization of indigenous knowledge is must. We should transform all the histories and traditional medicines, not only medicines. Apart from this, we have lots of local resources. We should use all those things in our curriculums, in our educational practices. With this, I wind up my paper. Thank you so much for NERIE and NCERT. Thanks a lot for everyone.
Thank you, Logamani ji. It was an interesting paper, and the most interesting part was that you did this and inculcated these practices in your school also. Thank you once again for presenting a nice paper and also sticking to the time. Now I invite Dr. Pawan Kumar, whose title of the paper happens to be Importance of Indigenous Knowledge in Teaching of Chemistry in School Curriculum. Again, sir, my request, please stick to the time. Please highlight the findings.
Good afternoon to all of you. Yes, ma'am, I shall follow the time limits, please. Yes. Is my screen visual, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, topic of my research paper is application of indigenous knowledge in the chemistry school curriculum. Since we have talked too much about indigenous knowledge system in different fields, so as per instructions, I would be focusing on the importance of indigenous knowledge in teaching of chemistry in school curriculum. Objective of my study were to study the status of IKS, that is indigenous knowledge system, in school curriculum using available literature, ways and means to implement the IKS in chemistry school curriculum, and third one, importance of IKS in subject chemistry in school curriculum. So, hypothesis of my study was that in the present scenario, knowledge available with the community has not been utilized fully for the benefit of the mankind based on the scientific observation or scientific principles. Indigenous knowledge is being practiced by the different community, different cultures at a large scale, but it needs documentation as told by the earlier researchers who were presenting before me. But we hypothesized in our study that there is a lack, there is a gap of application. This knowledge has not been implemented in the school curriculum. Methodology for this study was the literature survey of the available literature, which was available. We studied the literature in Indian context and the world context. significance of IKS in the chemistry curriculum is more important in my point of view, because chemistry by its very nature is an abstract subject. So if IKS is applied in chemistry teaching, it will reduce the rote learning or making the chemistry a fruitful subject. That is IKS, Indigenous Knowledge System, has direct link with the society values, and it ensures application of IKS in the school curriculum ensures the participation of the learner, better logical understanding of the culture and ethics, and last but not least, it is a guiding book for curriculum planners and the policy makers. Conclusion of my study is that chemistry is exceptionally growing subject, and a number of research papers are being published on yearly basis or monthly basis all around the world, and in fact from India also. So to acquaint the future generation with the basic concept of chemistry, to make chemistry an interesting subject, it is the need of the hour that the learning of the subject can be made more fruitful, more effective if IKS is introduced in the school curriculum at both stages, that is secondary as well as senior secondary stages in the school. This will not only help in sustainability goal achievement, but will also relate the learning with the socio-cultural experiences at present. If I talk about the IKS, the present scenario in India, very slow progress is there, but it needs to be focused more. Although some work has been done in the rest part of the world, but we in India are lacking, or we are having slow progress in this direction. My recommendations for future are that learning of chemistry at school level can be made more practical based. It can be made more practical based and student oriented if we include IKS in the appropriate proportion in stepwise manner. Secondly, Ministry of Education and other stakeholders of education like NCERT and RIEs and SCRTs should take initiative for in-service courses for chemistry teachers for proper orientation. Third, policy makers, that is curriculum designers or the stakeholders, should include the IKS at different cultures in curriculum for sustainability. Fourth one, seminars and workshops on IKS should be organized for sensitization of stakeholders of education. Practicals in chemistry based on locally available material should be focused or should be stressed, so that teaching, learning and application of knowledge are in real life situations. If these recommendations are followed, I hope better teaching and learning in chemistry can be done. My work on this research paper is still going on. Whatever I have done till now, I have presented. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And whatever you have done, you have presented it very well and timely. So thank you very much, Pankaj Sharma ji. Pawan Kumar ji. We have one last participant, that is Pankaj Sharma ji. Mathematics in the traditional gaming of Dogra community of Jammu and Ethno Mathematical Studies. Sir, please stick to the time and please present the.
Good afternoon, all. Am I hearable?
Yes.
Okay. The title of my work is Mathematics in the Traditional Gaming of Dogra Community of Jammu and Ethno Mathematical Study. Basically, we know that mathematics gives human beings the facility of logic, imagination, special thoughts, and the power to unravel problems. In India, the 2012 is also designated as the National Mathematics Year. But despite its significances, the outcome of mathematics is not satisfactory. The NCF and other reports also reacted to this. And the NCF also recommended how to mathematize the child thought process. To enhance mathematical learning, its teaching should reflect historical and cultural background. So that I choose the ethno-mathematical research area. Basically, ethno-mathematics is an interaction between the mathematics and the culture. The prefix ethno here is referred to the socio-cultural contexts like jargon, ethics, rules, beliefs, and the mathema is related to the describing, knowing, and understanding. And TICS has the same root of the techniques. So ethnomathematics is a research program that investigate and understand the mathematical practices of the different cultural groups. As mathematician and mathematics educator, our primary responsibility is to offer place of peace. Ethnomathematics helps restore cultural dignity and provide the intellectual tool for citizenship exercise. It enhances the creativity, strengthen cultural self-respect, and offer a broad vision of humanity. It is a system of knowledge in everyday life that provide a more favorable and harmonious relationship between humans and nature. In the conceptual discourse of mathematics, ethnomathematics emerges as a new category and as an interaction between maths and culture. The research objective of this study is to identify the mathematical elements in the traditional game Baratan of Dogra community, to study the geometrical concept in construction of Baratan game by the Dogra community. And the third objective is to analyze the mathematical ideas embedded in the conventional game. In screen, ma'am, is the PPT screen is visible?
No.
Okay. Basically, the Baratahan game, in framing of Baratahan game, is completely a geometrical game. The concept of right angle triangle and Pythagoras theorem verification might be conceptualized through the Baratahan game. The concept of centroid of triangle is also visualized in the Baratahan game. Baratahan basically is a Dogra community local game. So if I am talking about the education implication of this ethnomathematical research area are the mathematical elements that I explore in the Baratahan game of Dogra community. So from this Baratahan game, teacher can teach the concept of right angle triangle and other geometrical concepts through traditional gamings. The using indigenous games, for example, this Baratahan game and other local games can be used by the teacher in the mathematics classroom. The teacher training educational institutions should emphasize the need to consider the child past knowledge and culture. And through this traditional or local games, this can be possible. In context of Jammu and Kashmir, the present study can help the JKBOs, the J&K School Board of School Education to consider the local mathematical elements in the mathematics textbooks of schools. Textbooks should use examples from the students' culture while teaching geometry or measurement and other concepts. There should be charts and glossary of traditional mathematical elements in the school for the teacher to teach the mathematics concept. And at last, the mathematics taught to us in classroom is our mathematics, is my mathematics, not the teacher's mathematics or the author's mathematics. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Pankaj-ji. We would have loved it that if your slide was visible, because something you said about the game, I have not ever heard of it, and we would have seen it would have been better for all of us. Anyways, technology has its own limitations. So also we have the limitation of time. So I, at the end, in fact, the papers were so much in the group. I was given 1 hour time. I thought there were so many questions also coming to my mind, which I wish to ask to the presenters. Some very, very good papers, all of you. I must first thank the organizers from NERIE Shillong, Professor S.C. Roy, Professor Bhatt Thakur, Professor Nityanand Pradhan, and many colleagues. I see Tulika, I see Professor Floret, and I see Seema Nambiar also. Hi. So, sorry if I am not naming it. I see Professor Chuktai also from RI Bhopal. So, sabko namaste. And the papers, the choice of papers is varied. The diversity was immense. I love the way different things, there was so much to be taken from each paper. So many questions which I have written in this paper. I have been writing, constantly jotting out. But I knew I was very rude to all of you. I'd keep on giving you alarms that you have to finish paper in time. But yes, that was the role which was assigned to me. by the Niri Shillong, an unpopular role, of course. But the papers, I must say that you have talked about the indigenous knowledge. Some takeaways that all this indigenous knowledge, which you people have it, whether it is from the missing community or whether it is from the Dogra community, whether it is from the villages of Kerala, everything that needs to be these are all in the form of vocal traditions. So we really need to bring out a repository of all these indigenous practices, which could be helpful to be integrated for developing certain things, certain new ideas, certain new competencies in the curriculum. Yes, and I was in the inaugural session also, and when Professor the acting vice chancellor, I'm forgetting the name, Mr. Subba was speaking, he said that every knowledge, everything which you get from indigenous knowledge has to be tested. Just because it's a part of our culture, just because it is a part of everything, that need not to be just imbibed in the curriculum. We need to test it scientifically, whether it is usable, whether it is sustainable. Now it is possible, but definitely we need to have a look into all these traditional and indigenous practices which have been carried out for years together, which you researchers have taken a cue to find out, courtesy Niri Shillong, by organizing a seminar on such a vibrant topic, need of the hour. I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to chair the session and listen to such intelligent presentations. All the presentations were very good, but yes, we need to there are limitation of technology, there is limitation of time. I'm sorry again that I had been constantly hammering you for time, because my co-reporter was also missing today, so I had to do two jobs at a time, and both unpopular ones. Thank you very much for providing me this opportunity and adding to my knowledge base, enriching my knowledge. Thank you very much, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am.
session of post lunch and a very good afternoon to everyone. So the along with me, the co-chair is Dr. Basansi Karluki. She will also be, giving the feedback and comments and remarks regarding the presentation of the paper. The theme of this technical session is indigenous knowledge, implying scientific and technological skills. So we have 11 presenters in this session. So I don't know if anyone is offline. Is anyone? Okay. Okay. So we have one presenter who will be presenting offline, and I think the rest will be offline. And I hope that everyone are joining and you're ready with your presentation. So just in brief, the list of the presenter is number one, Mr. A. Rafi. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Anjan Banik.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I am also there.
Rakesh Chowdhury. Are you online?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Dr. Dayal Pyari.
Yes, ma'am.
Shadudhin M.
Yes, ma'am.
S. Malathi.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Dr. Saraju.
Yes, I'm here.
Dr. Nizamuddin Ahmed.
Madam, present here.
Dr. Satish Kumar and Professor B.P. Sahu. Yes. I think they are not online. Srinivasam B. and Rana Varunani. Okay. So you are offline. So I'll go. I just will have serial wise presentation. So we'll go with serial number 1, Mr. A. Rafi, and the title of the paper is Indigenous Knowledge, Implying Scientific and Technological Skills, Mathematics, including Vedic Mathematics, Maths.
Is it audible, ma'am?
Okay,
Is it
so
audible?
regarding the timings, please stick to the timings because we have lots of presenters in the session, and the timing will be 5 minutes. We'll be giving 5 minutes each, and please stick to the time. That is our request. If Dr. Basansi has anything to say. Okay, so let us start right away with the presentation of the paper without much delay. And we have 2 rapporteurs in this session, Deva Raju NB and Anju. Okay, so kindly note down all the the comments, suggestions, remarks, and the discussion, and also the deliberations. So I invite Mr. A. Rafi.
Yes, ma'am.
If you have your PPT, please share with
Yes,
us.
ma'am. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
It's not sharing, ma'am. Ma'am, please. Is it audible, ma'am?
No.
Ma'am, is it audible?
No, it's not visible.
Yes, ma'am. Is it audible?
Yeah, it is audible. We can hear you, but we cannot see your screen.
Yes, ma'am. I can't able to share, ma'am.
Yeah, you start then in between you can share the screen. Yeah, start your presentation.
Is it sharing, ma'am?
No. You can start presentation.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yeah.
this paper discusses indigenous knowledge implying scientific and technology skills and mathematics, including Vedic mathematics. This paper emphasizes on times.
Can you on your video?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Including Vedic mathematics. This paper emphasizes on time-saving tricks and shortcut methods to be applied in competitive and achievement tests. Further makes pre-tests and post-tests and conduct surveys. Students find challenging to complete aptitude problems efficiency in competitive tests. Very little or no time. Even if people comprehend the problem, they are unable to speed up the computation process. They have to do calculation in series of stages. It slows down the process. In Vedic system of calculation, the way greatly improve the speed in which arithmetic process and problems can be solved. Vedic involves fastest mental mathematics system is Vedic mathematics system. It has 16 formulas and 13 subformulas. More systematic and simplified, unified and conventional system builds and strengthens maths concepts. The father of Vedic mathematics is Sri Bharati Krishna Tritachi. And the objective of the study was to perform rapidity on mathematics competitive and achievement tests by applying shortcut methods using Vedic mathematics, to conduct experiments and surveys to check rapidity of solving problems using shortcut methods, pre-test and post-test. The principal goal is to determine if Vedic mathematics approach enhances the speed of basic mathematics operations. The sub-goal is to determine the time difference is minutes before and after adapting Vedic mathematics approach to do some fundamental problems, the same problems. Experiments were conducted pre-test and post-test before and after adapting Vedic mathematics technique. A survey was conducted. Sampling was 20 competitive participants, that is NMMS, NTS and trust exam participants were selected from a government school, and they were given a 10 set of arithmetic questions to cover fundamental mathematical operations. The people's time spent before and after adapting Vedic mathematics technique is recorded in minutes. GeoGebra app is used to find calculations. Hypothesis formation, the mean score before and after the use of Vedic mathematics approach is the same. Alternative hypothesis, there is a significant difference between before and after adapting Vedic mathematics techniques while solving same basic mathematical problem. T-test, the tabulated value for 90-degree freedom and at 5% significant level is 2.093. Since calculated value of 2.21 is greater than the tabulated value T, it's significant that 5% level of significance. Hence, the null hypothesis is rejected and the alternative hypothesis is selected. If we consider one-tile test, there is a significant decrease in time before and after adapting Vedic mathematics techniques while solving some basic mathematical problem. Limitation of the study, the population or sample size is very much limited. The study considered only few mathematical operations. The study considered time in terms of minutes. Survey, a 10-question survey was distributed to students who were participated in the test and 20 mathematics instructors of various boards. 40 responses were collected. Conclusion, practice makes man perfect. By this saying, one has to practice well to achieve mastery in this skill. It can be applied after getting practice in traditional method of teaching mathematics. Later, it can be applied as a catalyst to perform the mathematical calculation fast. It can be an aid to improve fast calculation in competitive exams like NMMS, NTSE, and TEST. The study discovered that Vedic mathematics process greatly cut the time necessary to complete some fundamental computations. It stresses that Vedic mathematics can be used as a catalyst which makes calculations fast. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for this opportunity, but sorry, I can't able to display my slide.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rafi.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah, this is a research-based paper, and your findings will be having a great educational implications in the field of school education with special reference to mathematics. So if anyone has any query, any question, we'll take 1-2 questions. Anyone want to ask any question? Okay, if not, then we will go to the next presenter, Mr. Anjan Bandik.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please share your screen.
Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, it is visible?
The process.
Good afternoon to all. In this tremendous platform that was initiated by the NERIE itself, the National Seminar on Integration of Indigenous Knowledge in School Curriculum, organized today on 17th February. Welcome from Tripura. It's my gratitude and to NERIE also for giving this such an opportunity to present our indigenous knowledge-based work. Myself, Anjan Bonik, and this today the theme is indigenous knowledge implying scientific and technological skill. I would like to pay my regards to Principal NERIE and SC Roy sir, coordinator, along with chairperson, co-chairperson, reporters also.
To your, you have 5 minutes. You go straight to your paper.
Yeah, sure. My topic is impact of new age programs at JC Bose Science Math Puppetry Film Award Festival, opportunities for metacognitive development in science education through a path-breaking indigenous learning environment to mold students into future, along with this indigenous knowledge, includes in my abstract and as an introduction, inclusive integrated science education with metacognitive impact of traditional and indigenous knowledge, especially indigenous culture, is the newer dimension and newer concept towards the ensuring quality education outcome.
Excuse me. Yeah, please don't. Yeah, please don't read everything, because just give a gist of your presentation. I mean your slide. Don't read everything.
Sure. So towards this motive, this one program has been organized in association to highlight the indigenous knowledge, even indigenous culture. And this is Sir J.C. Bose International Science Math Puppetry Film Festival and Award. And this innovative ICT involved indigenous knowledge integrated to science and educational activity based as at the national platform, which has been integrated with indigenous knowledge also for the development of educational learning outcomes. We have initiated, and for positive effect in pandemic opens, the ICT involvement is more accessible for the teachers in teaching as a super teaching methodology. And along with this, the webinar and workshop has been conducted also. And in here also, we have conducted some workshop based on indigenous culture and indigenous knowledge. And we found that it improves the JPD also. And the study revealed that 9.70, nearest to 10% of the future nation enjoys metacognitive approach in school educations with in integration of indigenous knowledge, whereas conquering all odds and consecutive 2 years, 2020 and 2021, almost 12% accurate cognitive development has been found in this with this film festival and workshops also. So it's an effect. The main object of this study is to study the impact level of learning variation through metacognitive influence of innovative ICT involved indigenous knowledge, integrated science educational activity, and we have given the name, that is Sir J.C. Bose International Science Math Puppetry Film Festival, where students have to prepare some puppetry first with the workshop, and then they have to make a video on specific themes of science or math, and we have organized this film festival, the world's first ever such kind of film festival. This is the total volume of students throughout the India, 260,597 as per the records, and out of this our sample population is 12507, and this is the findings. In consecutive 2 years we have conducted such workshops, and the 12,507 students have joined us, and out of this, if we go through the outcome wise, this is 9.70 meta cumulatively, and if we find the year wise, in 2020 is 0.06%, whereas in 2021 it is 12.2%. So it's improving. Students
me,
are,
when you go to your, your
yes.
5 minutes is over.
Yes. Just do 1 minute, ma'am. So perspectives is higher. We involved ICT and education, indigenous educational knowledge also, and we got support from various organizations also. And it is fully available on the YouTube channel, YouTube user, Onion Writer, and so many persons involved in this program. Even scientific institutions, prestigious institutions also, like Department of Science and Technology, ISRO. So this is the outcome. We can, if we initiated with the education with indigenous knowledge, I think it is better, and indigenous knowledge should be the open and introductory substance in science education classroom teaching management to introduce the basic to the learner in a familiar teaching learning methodology. Also, we can improve this one, and NCERT with this YouTube and other platforms also utilize this type of opportunities, virtual presentation of science math based puppetry shows. So it is the overall thing with this all references. Thanks for giving chance in this.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Bane, on your paper, the impact of a new age program in order to mold students into future scientists. So again, this is also a research based paper. So I just have one small, question. In your title, you have mentioned New Age Program. Why New Age Program? Why you have kept the term New Age Program? How is it different from, other program? Kindly unmute.
First of all, it's a indigenous knowledge and indigenous culture based. If we go through its perspective wise, here we have integrated with ICT also, and we have integrated with workshop for training for the students. Even it's a metacognitive approach is there, because we have to train teachers first, and through teachers we can train students. So it's a very as far as it is concerned, the multidimensional things is also there. And after that, we have to take this opportunity of workshop or puppetry, like culture, in an integration of science and mathematics. Students have to take some topic and to understand, for better understanding as a skill-based technology or experiential learning technology methodology, they have to prepare this video, and then we collect this video as an outcome and analyze or evaluate for the best one. And this is the total structure of this. So this is a in such a way no program is there. So in lockdown 2022 20 and 2021 we are continuously doing this thing with the help. Then ISRO and NASA scientists are involved with this program apart from Department of Science and Technology. So it's a good thing, and there is no registration fee or nothing. We are not taking any penny from anybody's.
Okay. So it is just a small suggestion, since the paper if selected it will be published. So if you can reduce, you can just minimize the I find the title, the topic is
Sure.
yeah, it's
Sure,
very
all of a
long.
sudden, yes,
Yeah,
ma'am. All of a sudden,
it's
we have
very
submitted
long.
that one.
It's very long. You make it short
Sure.
and and
Sure.
clear. Yeah, it should be clear also and
We
short.
will be specific, ma'am. We will be specific.
So this is
Yes,
one
sure.
small suggestion.
Thank
So
you, ma'am. Thank you.
yeah, if anyone has any question. Okay, I think no question. So now we will go to the third. Thank you once again, Mr. Banik. Now we will go to the next presenter, Rakesh Chaudhary.
Yes,
the title of the paper is Use of ICT in Teaching Learning Process During COVID-19 Pandemic in West Bengal. So it's a very relevant, topic because we have experienced the pandemic, and ICT has to play a greater role during the pandemic. Yeah. So looking forward to your presentation. You can start you can start your presentation now.
Okay, ma'am. It is visible, ma'am?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Good afternoon, all the dignitaries and the chairperson and co-chairperson and the participants and presenters. Myself, Rakesh Chaudhary, research scholar of Assam University Education Department. The title of this my article and the paper is the use of information and communication technology in teaching learning process during COVID-19 pandemic in West Bengal. Because we know the last 2 years, the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted the education in 160 crore students in all over the globe, in this globe. And in India, after 25th March of 2020, all the education institutions were closed. So the face-to-face teaching learning process could not be possible in school. In this situation, online digital education was used as an alternative mode for continuing teaching learning process. But in our developing country, have no such proper infrastructure or training for teachers for digital education. Although government and public sectors can try to implement online classes, in this present study, the researcher organized an online survey for assessing the use of ICT, that means information and communication technology, by the students and the teachers of West Bengal. And the objectives of this study is to assess the use of information and communication technology by students in teaching learning process during COVID-19 pandemic, to assess the use of information and communication technology by teachers in teaching learning process during COVID-19 pandemic, and give suggestion to improve their digital education in West Bengal. Methods and procedure, tools and technique for data collection. The researcher prepared 2 questionnaires related to the use of information and communication technology in teaching learning process for students and teachers' perspective. Then researcher prepared 2 Google Forms of these 2 questionnaires. And here the sample size is 156 students. Out of 156, 56 male and 100 female students. And in teachers, 60 teachers, total 60 teachers participated in this study, 33 male and 27 female teachers. The result and interpretation of the students' data. Here we see that 64.1% female students and 35.9% male students here. And the class-wise distribution, 6th grade, 7th grade to 12th grade class-wise distribution we see seen here. And the results simultaneously that the 40% student cannot study at home in regular basis, and nearly 32% students cannot participate the online classes in regular basis. Nearly 53% students are not satisfied through online education. 52% students said that they have no proper internet facility for digital education, and also the infrastructure also. In 60.3% students use WhatsApp, and 51.3% students use Google Meet. Nearly 11% students use Google Classroom, and 5.1% students use YouTube as a media for online class. Half of the students said that they faced problem of understanding their studies through online. 69.2% students face problem in doing their homework activities. 41.7% students said that they do not appear any online examination in last 2 years. Nearly 60% students said that their school cannot organize any cultural program through online. And nearly 70% students said that in future online class and offline class both are required simultaneously. So this is the study for the student data, from the student data. Also the results and interpretation of teachers data, we get the 55% female teachers and 45% male teachers. Here the teaching experience of the 60 teachers are less than 5%, 20% teachers, and 5 to 10%, 5 to 10 years, 26.7% teachers, and 53.3% is greater than 10 years teaching experience. Here, the data from this data we get 78.3% teachers said that they were taking online class, but 21.7% teachers said that they cannot start online class. Most of the teachers, that means 56.7%, said that in this pandemic situation, students are deprived from their regular study. But 38.3% teachers said that they cannot do anything in this situation. 53.3% teachers said that they have no sufficient technology for taking online class. 56.7% teachers said that few number of students able to do their online class with sufficient technology. And 86.7%.
Excuse me, your time is over. Can you just come to the conclusion?
Okay, ma'am. Here the teachers use different media as a YouTube, WhatsApp. Most of the teachers use, and the type of lesson delivered in this online class: audio, visual, audio, PowerPoint, picture. Most of the teachers said that they cannot organize any alternative mode of instruction for the teachers for the students who are not assessing online class. 55% teachers said that they were not taking online class regularly, and they're taking online class regularly, and 45% teachers said that they cannot taking online class regularly. And in this conclusion part, we get in this COVID-19 pandemic situation, due to closure of school, students face problem in learning and teachers face problem in teaching. So teaching learning process is hampering. Students and teachers have not sufficient technology for continuing teaching learning process in digitally. Some teachers are not competent in taking online class. School have no proper infrastructure for organizing online class properly. In suggestion that in West Bengal, firstly, the government should focus in digital education infrastructure for future, and teachers' skills improvement is required for future education, because after this COVID-19 pandemic, digital education is very important issue in future. Parents support their children for technology use, and also the students give proper guide for utilization of technology for their future study. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. It is a very good study, as I've mentioned in the beginning, a very relevant, study also. And yeah, especially with your suggestions, it is good that you have come up with, few suggestions, because we do have many challenges when it comes to, using of ICT during the pandemic. So you have come up with the suggestions, but we hope that those suggestions will be taken up and will be implemented. So, sharing of findings and sharing of suggestions is equally important.
Okay.
So if you have anything to say.
Yes.
Mr. Chaudhary, your study is quite, like Madam Bala has said, that it's quite relevant, especially now that we are going through this, online classes and all. But just a few things, queries I would like to ask, since you have taken males and female. I was just wondering why you're taking 56 male student and 100 female student. And
No, ma'am.
I don't see any like rural, urban, because when we talk about ICT, if we really want to know, because there is a difference between rural and urban.
Yes, ma'am. My
Yeah.
PhD research paper is also mentioned here, but this is a small study. In this pandemic situation, we collected data from Google form, so we cannot specify the data that male student and female student in equal basis. So this is a small study. In further way, my PhD research is also the role of information and communication technology in teaching mathematics at secondary level in West Bengal. So in this study, I also covered this.
Okay, just a small thing. One more thing, like you're saying, there are teachers who are not able to take online class. They're not able to start online class. So did you find out what do they do then? If they're not able to take online class,
they are not competent because they can one kind of refuse or they deny the situation also that in this pandemic situation we know that the pandemic situation suddenly occurred, so they cannot believe that online education or digital education is important in this situation. We know that the face-to-face mode is very important, and the interaction between student and teacher is also important. But in this situation, digital, we know that I am from West Bengal, from an interior village. I joined this highly privileged this seminar also. So digital and online education is some importance and some limitation also. So the teachers are highly so teachers are maybe updated for this part for this digital education.
Yeah. So I think looking into the it can also be a comparative study to compare the rural urban, because there is definitely a disparity when it comes to use of ICT in rural and urban. We have the halves and the half-nuts when it comes to using of ICT. So it will be a very good study also if you can just compare. It can be a comparative study between rural and urban, or you can look into government private schools.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
So it will be
I covered all this sectors.
So
No problem. Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
do you have any other query from other presenter? If anyone online also, if you have joined online, if you have
एक क्वेश्चन है राकेश जी.
Yes.
When you conducted this survey in West Bengal, time.
I last year in the mid of 2021.
Last year, मतलब 2021.
2021, yes. The
2021
when second wave is starting.
फिर भी 31 above 31% teachers said that they not capable for taking online classes.
Yes, sir. This is an important point here.
Okay. ठीक है.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Now we will just go to the next presenter. That is Dr. Dayal Pyari.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I am.
Just one minute. The title of the paper is Challenges of Quality Assurance at School Level, Online Teaching and Learning Program in Education. So now you can start your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Anju Joshi. I am PhD scholar of MIT University, Noida, Uttar Pradesh.
Do you have any PPT to share?
I have not PPT. I have the paper. I'm just sharing it, and I'm presenting this presentation on the behalf of my guide, Dr. Dayal Biari, and who is the author of this paper. And I am her scholar, and I'm presenting this. And the topic of this paper is challenges of quality assurance at school level, online teaching and learning program education. So COVID-19 pandemic is expected to not just absorb enormous economic consequences, but it is also having devastating impact on global education. So according to the report of UNESCO, there are approx 1.3 billion learners around the world were not able to attend school or university. So learning through the digital medium is not something new for India. The government has used electronic media since the days of radio, and then Doordarshan Gyan Darshan program and Eid Pasha, Swam Prabhat Diksha, lots of programs are learning in our country. So introduction, online learning is education that takes place over the internet. It is often referred to as e-learning among other terms. According to a recent study in a global level online learning program, after the United States, India has been reported to have the second highest number of online course enrollment, with more than over 155,000 students from the country. So, what are the challenges which the teacher are facing while they are using the e-platform for teaching the students? These are the challenges. First, adaptability struggle switching from traditional classroom to face-to-face instructor training to computer-based training in a virtual classroom is not easy task for the teachers. And the second, computer literacy is a major issue among students, especially having rural background, because they don't know how to even start and handle the technical things and how to use the computers and how to use these electronic platform to study. Next issue is there are some teachers who are digitally inept, while a larger number of teachers have never used an online platform to teach. Many students are not provided strong internet connection and stable power supply as required in their chosen course. So these are some issues, and online courses require a lot of time and intensive work. So it is very difficult task for online learners to get proper time management. Having online classes on a regular basis has a cost implications too, as students have to bear the cost of internet services. Next, self-motivation is essential requirement for online learning, but unfortunately many learners lack it. And online learning demands a conducive environment for study, but all students have not quite space for learning at home. India is multilinguistic country and a vast majority of the population comes from rural background. But the content offered by most of the online courses is in English, which is another important issue. And the most common challenge of online learning is students face the lack of face-to-face engagement with instructors and the other students. So how to overcome technical challenges? So we have only one choice to continue communication with the students through virtual lecture or portals like MOOCs. So we don't have any option except shifting the digital platform with a positive attitude to overcome the above mentioned challenges. Now we have to embrace ICT because ICT has the power and potential to help the users to overcome the challenges. According to Conard, a lecturer of the University of California, it is not lecture classroom online. It is an active learning classroom online. So we have to change our perspectives. Use of IT tools, app and resources to the learners. And Bandura's social learning theory illustrated that learners learn more when they observe and imitate. So Google Docs, Google Drive, Google Hangouts, MS Team, these all are the platforms which work for this. According to various researchers, students hardly revisit their assignments. They do not check teachers' suggestions and comments, but feed forward models future focus and inculcates ideas about what a learners or teacher can do differently with the assignment criteria and inform learner of what is expected and what is mark them accordingly. The teacher knows very well that online classes are open to public, so parental scrutiny has made the teachers conscious of delivering their best in online classes. So by concluding, the researcher would like to say that online teaching and learning is catalyzing pedagogical shift in how we teach and learn. There is a shift away from top-down lecturing and passive student to a more interactive, collaborative approach in which students and instructors co-create the learning process. So although it is a hard to practice, but the teacher is, as well as students, need to understand that it is necessary to reap the online learnings beneficial in the future. Thank you so much.
Can you on the video?
Ma'am, sorry, I'm not able to on the video because I'm using the desktop for my institution's library, and here is no camera on my desktop.
Okay, okay. So
Yes,
number one, are you Dr. Payal Pyari?
No, ma'am. I'm her scholar. Dr. Dayal Pyari is my guide, and I am presenting this paper on the behalf of her. I'm not Dr. Dayal Pyari.
Number two, see your paper. It's to me it doesn't relate to this indigenous knowledge. So how do you connect your paper with indigenous knowledge?
Ma'am, I don't know much about this paper because I told you that I'm not author of this paper. I'm just presenting this paper on the behalf of my guide. So
kindly convey the message that
yes, ma'am,
the
sure.
paper has to be related to the theme of the seminar. Number one.
Yes, ma'am.
And number two, I see the references also is incomplete. You just mentioned books without complete reference.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
reference is very, very important.
Yes, ma'am.
Theoretical paper or research-based paper, references is very, very important. So
Yes,
I see that reference is incomplete. You have just mentioned book. No, there is no reference at all in the reference section.
Yes,
So please look into this.
Okay, ma'am.
Thing.
Okay, ma'am.
And yeah, and if anyone has any question? Okay, we'll move on then to the next. Yeah, thank you. Chadun Hind M. Are you here?
Yes, ma'am. There is a little correction on my name.
Okay, so your paper is a study on impact of sustainable development goals on forestry and nature. How could we overcome from negative impacts? So again, it is a research based paper. So you can start your presentation now.
Okay, ma'am. Can I just there's one thing. There is a little correction on my name. Can I type it here?
Can you repeat?
Ma'am, there is a little correction on my name. A spelling mistake there.
Okay, that will be correct.
Ma'am, can I type it here? My exact name?
It's okay.
Spellings?
It's okay. You can just mail, you can also mail us.
Okay, ma'am. Good evening, all. My name is Sahaduddin, and I am from University of Calicut, Kerala. My topic is a study on impacts of sustainable development goals, forestry and nature. How could we overcome from negative impacts?
Excuse me, do you have any presentation to share? PPT?
No, ma'am. I will present without PPT.
Can you on the video?
Sure, ma'am. Sure. Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, there is a little network problem. So may I present without video? Okay, I will start. The United Nations borrowed the Agenda 2030 with its core element, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, in September 2050. In order to achieve these aims, within the coming times, violent sweats are demanded by all political and societal actors.
Excuse me, please don't read everything. Please don't read. everything. Just give your,
Yes, ma'am. I'm coming to the point, ma'am.
your paper. Don't read
Okay, ma'am.
everything. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Sure. Okay, sustainable development is the overarching paradigm of the United Nations. The notions of sustainable development was described by the 1987, and in 2050, world leaders agreed to 17 global aims, officially known as Sustainable Development Goals. It's now 7 times on, and we have furthermore work than ever to do. These aims have the power to produce a better world by 2030. By ending poverty, fighting inequality, and addressing the urgency of climate change, guided by its ideas, it's now over to all of us, government, business, civil society, and the general public to work together to make a better future for everyone. And my objectives are progress towards achieving United Nations Sustainable Goals, targets relating to energy and infrastructure has the possible to the most dangerous to the world's forest ecosystem, even though there are higher numbers of aims that will advantages to forest. According to new research, impacts and woodlands associated with the global objectives on health, water, sanitation, and matters of gender equality remain poorly researched. So the main objectives of the research paper is to understand conflict between the SDGs and forestry and make the negative impacts into the positive and with the relevant studies, and to find out the positive impacts of SDGs and forestry. In order to achieve these aims, within the coming times, violence threats are demanded by all political and societal actors. The question is remains that what forestry might to achieve the sustainable development goals. Therefore, the direct positive and negative goods of forestry itself on sustainability and analyze it. And it's discussed how sustainably timber operation could contribute to achieving other sustainable development goals in addition to SDGs. And this analysis reveals the forestry plays a double part. Forestry can achieve positive sustainability goods, but can also have negative impacts. It's thus recommended to use integrated assessment approaches to assess whether a specific timber related policy or strategy is contributing to sustainable development. Besides quantitative integrated assessment, the use of quality fabrics like the fair works for strategies that sustainable development is purposed. And it's also suggests to operationalize the generally of alternate order sustainability performance for the timber sector in future exploration.
Excuse me, do you have your full paper? If you can share your full paper, we would like to see.
Ma'am, I'm presenting with another phone.
If you have your full paper also, you can share. We would just want to see your full paper.
Okay, ma'am, I will share through email. Hello, ma'am.
You can continue now.
Okay, ma'am. I would like to mention some sustainable development goals here. Poverty, and the targets from the UN is abolish extreme poverty, reduce poverty in at least 15, and etc. And next goal is zero hunger, and the targets are universal access to safe and
excuse me. Those goals, it's already there, and we are aware of the goals. Can you?
Yes, no. I would like to just mention here. That's all.
It is a research study and on impact of a study on impact of sustainable development. So we just want to really know about sample, then tool, what you use, then what are the findings of the study, what are your suggestions. So these are these are the few things which are very prominent in a research paper. So can you just give us, don't go about, those goals, targets, those things we are aware, but you can just give us, the gist of your research study because it is a research paper.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to focus on my some of SDGs here. They are life below water and affordable and clean energy. I think it's related to forestry and nature. So I would like to mention here the other remaining goals, and I'm emphasizing on more focusing on life below water and affordable and cleaner energy, etc. And here, affordable and clean energy, renewable energy resources are getting cheaper and more dependable and more effective every day. Our current dependence on fossil energies is unsustainable and dangerous to the earth, which is why we have changed the way we procedure and consume energy. Enforcing this new strategy results as first to possible to essential to fight climate change, one of the biggest pitfalls.
Can you come to
Sorry, ma'am?
conclusion? Can you come to the conclusion? Your time is up.
Okay, ma'am, sure. And let me conclude this. Forests are a vital base for sustainable development, and the SDGs will impact forests and the people dependent on them in numerous ways. The SDGs include incompletely conflicting visions of timbers for people. It necessary to consider trade-offs and set precedents. The SDGs impacts on timbers and people are largely environment dependent. There are essential values and principles that may guide sustainable development related to timbers and people. There are major driving forces of UN sustainable development that need to be delivered to advance timber governance and operation. There is a necessity to continuously learn and suit the process of working towards a sustainable timber operation at the timber. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Just, one comment. I couldn't see that your paper is a research-based paper. So, if again, I'm
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
yeah, I'm again repeating. I don't think this is a research-based paper. And if it is a research-based paper, you have to, your paper should link, and your presentation also should be related to a research-based paper. So please look into this, which is very, very important. And you can, modify, you can see the, accordingly, you can do the, you can modify accordingly. Please see that it should be in line with the research paper. So if,
Okay, sure.
yeah. Anyone wants to ask any question? Okay, thank you. Now we will go to the next presenter, S. Malathi. The name of the paper is High School Students Learning of the Elements, Atomic Numbers and Mass Numbers of the Periodic Table, Contributions of Multivariate Science-Based Activities and Exemplary Graphics. So your topic title is very long. You can start your presentation now. Please unmute. Please unmute. Please unmute.
Okay. Welcome, ma'am. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My heartiest welcome, our all dignitaries and chairperson, Professor Pure, talker and co-chairperson, Passion C. Karul, and I report your Devaraj sir. Thank you, Exam, and welcome all our participants and presenters. My topic is high school students learning of the periodic table, contributions of multivariate science-based activities by using indigenous resources. Here I am Malathi, PT Austin Common Higher Secondary School, NERIE-NCERT, Tenkasi District, Tamil Nadu, India. I would thank our NERIE and NCERT. Now, what is the indigenous resources means? It's very, in our local area, the variety of timbers, cans, glaze and balsam. This is give the attitude of the learning and knowledge and the skill aspects. It establishes a significant connection between the what people encounter in the school and their lives beyond the school for the cultural sustainability. Then my paper objective is to familiarize the students to activity-based teaching methods, to introduce simple activities in the record activity style, to strengthen the conceptual understanding using activity-based style, and also to enhance the quality of education among high school students. And the element symbols and atomic numbers of the elements periodic table among students. To identify the description of the symbols and atomic numbers of the elements in periodic table among the students, the materials and methods. In the preparation of indigenous resources, I take one command of clay, prepare the clay letters in the presence of students, and to prepare the whole periodic table in the use of clay. The clay, my target group is, in this studies, the prime was to develop the skill of understanding simple and atomic number of the elements. The 10th standard students do an activity teaching. And the study had only one group, that is experimental group. I take 15 students studying in the 10th standard of my school. The next, the activity teaching stage is the question answer, heuristic discovery, group discussion, role playing, brainstorming, independent study, and videos. This is one of the activity based learning videos. I should practice the activities in the basis of the elements, all the elements. So the next, the students also based on the activities will teaching stage in the activity, all the elements names. So it's memoried very easily to the students. Okay, this photo shows that all the clay materials, all the clay letters shows in the periodic table, and discuss with all the students and check their understanding. And also I prepare the wall for using the charts. This is the end of the periodic table. You put in the period all the elements, structure, atomic number, and the symbols of the elements, and teach through this periodic table. And from this, the collected data were processed and analyzed with the help of the percentage, frequency, mean, and graphical representation in order to find out the meaning of the interpretation of the raw source. This is the tabular column source, pre-test and post-test scores of the 10th standard students. Then account 15 students. From this, I have the graph that is pre-test and post-test. This shows the graph. What's the conclusion is, that is the multi-science activity using indigenous resources brought about the improvement of the satisfactory level. So the students in the beginning 20% of marks they get, but in the after implementing the many strategies, many learning methods, activities, teaching method, the post-test removal of all the 15 students will that is activity-based learning. The classroom is very dynamic environment, and the bringing together the students from different backgrounds with various abilities and personalities. Being an active teacher, therefore, requires the implementation of creative and innovative teaching strategies like activity-based teaching.
Your time is up, madam.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. It is also a research paper, and it is a very interesting paper which includes, activity-based learning. So it's a very interesting paper, and it is open for discussion. If anyone has a question or any comments. Okay, thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for giving this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Saraju from NERIE. The title of the paper is Folk Medicine Among the Meiteis of Manipur. Dr.
Professor. Okay. So, Professor Bala, is my slide visible? Professor Bala,
Yes,
is my
yes.
slide visible?
Now we can see you.
Okay.
Yeah, you have 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon, the chairperson, the co-chairperson, and all the delegates. So the title of the paper is seen as folk meditation among the Metis of Manipur. It is not a research-based paper, it's a theoretical paper, but the insights which I have taken is based on a theory and a kind of concern which has been made in the NEP 2020, the revitalization and relooking into the traditional knowledge as a part of the critical pedagogy. That is what I am going to look into this. So, folk medicine, I just would like to begin with what is folk medicine understood by the term folk medicine. It is a medical aspect of the traditional knowledge that has developed over time in response to the day-to-day illnesses. And what is important to note is it has been practicing by the community for long. It is a community's common response to the problem of health, disease, and sickness. And it uses a wide range of medicines from mere hygienic proverbial expressions, like even the language reflects the traditional wisdom. Use of the herbs, there is a wide range of herbs, the stones, animal substance. Normally, we talk about the beer's gallbladder or something like that. So and then magic, and also since it is a folk wisdom, since it is related to the traditional belief system of the people, there is a place for magic, ritual, mantra, and incantation, which we may validate or which may not validate, taking into the kind of validity question. And the knowledge of folk medicine, when we talk about the folk medicine, the very knowledge is not restricted in nature. It is in the sense that the community owns this type of treatment to a certain extent. It is the community's knowledge system. So, coming down to the social nature of folk medicine, it is based on a shared understanding of human nature and the causes of suffering. Every society, folk medicine is not only for a community, it is every society has developed a certain healing institutions and practices over time because people need to respond to the challenges which are posed by so-called diseases, the ailments, the sickness. Hence, the folk medicine is an important organ of the folk mind, belief, as well as there is some component of superstition also. It is a part of the total social knowledge of the community. Coming to the Metis context of illness, the paper tries to explore the concept of health and sickness and its dynamic relationship with social, cultural, and physical environment. The kind of health and sickness, you can't distract exactly from the social, cultural, and physical milieu of the people where they are living. As we find in everyday realities, and we have been represented, or there is a practice of traditional practitioners, which we call Maibas and Maibis, the traditional healers, you call diviners, or whatever the language. And these are people, they are existing, they are still, their role was very great earlier, their role is still there. The human body, how we perceive, how the Metis perceive is, human body is not just a physical organism fluctuating between health and illness, but also an embodied reality of its own social and psychological significance, interpreted differently in the different socio-cultural practices, socio-cultural contexts. The reference of this condition of the body when it is being afflicted with some kind of illness requires expert intervention. And for that expert intervention, there is a large, all societies have developed a large extent of their conception of nature and its functioning of the body and the cultural values through which the same has been defined and interpreted. The practice of the folk medicine is the earliest form of science. It may not be considered exactly as something of superstitious kind of thing. It has some sort of empirical base because it is something.
Sanju,
Yeah.
when you come to the conclusion, it's almost time.
So, okay, health and medical practices, if we look into the Metis process, then it is related, it is not, it cannot be called unscientific because it is It involves the process of diagnosis, treatment, and prevention. Okay. Then coming to the folk medicine as is practiced, there is institutionalized and individualized kind of treatment. When there is a state issue like epidemics or like something coming up, then there are some rituals to be done by our office, which has been considered, which has been known as Pandit Loisha, office of the scholars under the patronage of the king. And individual treatment, it has gone down to the traditional practitioners. Okay. And there are some, we have a very elaborate literature on the traditional medicine, even the lore of knobs, even the lore of medicine, and so many and so forth are there. So the practitioners who practices, the practitioners I have already mentioned, they are Maibas and Maibis. And the way how we approach is the herbal, there is herbal folk medicine, there is musico-religious folk medicine, and there is some sort of physiotherapy kind of practice, which we call Marishuba. Herbal folk medicine, I won't go there. I'll come to the steps. Okay.
Yeah.
The growing this interest. How I want to conclude is the growing interest of the folk medicinal plants and its significance among the younger generation of the Meitei may lead to the disappearance of this practice and a host of knowledge incorporated in the environment and belief system. Educated younger generation could be encouraged to protect and cultivate the valuable herbal plants before they got lost due to the impact of urbanization and urbanization. Consideration of traditional medical system that survived for the state for quite some time, its therapeutic value, sustainability can be upgraded through education, licensing, incorporation in the state health planning program. Then how the strength of folk medicine lies in its capacity. This is the last line. Psychosocial nature. The state-sponsored medical system doesn't look into the indigenous as a whole and fail to see the socio-cultural basis and its uses. Here, World Health Organization's contemporary and alternative medicine and integrated approach to health could be considered. And Meitei folk medicine can be seen as the art of skillful examination, diagnosis, ritual, and expert treatment should be there. Then, from the image point of view, what I just want to conclude with the Devarapalli 2007, no special value of superior or inferior is attached to any form of the diversified practices. Each one is valid in its own right and resolving part of the crisis. No all support system. Okay, that was there before, which is not there. Okay, these are the references which is hardly visible. And thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sarju, for your a very relevant paper to this theme of the seminar. So thank you so much. Now we will move on to the next presenter, Dr. Vedic Mathematics. The paper is Ethno Mechanical Medicinal Practices among the tribes of West Bengal, its relevance, challenges, and obstacles in present time. Dr. Nazamuddin Ahmed.
Madam, am I audible?
Yes. The background noise is there.
Just probably.
In the meantime, can we move on to the next presenter? We will come again to you. Dr. Satish Kumar and Professor B.P. Sahu. The paper is Integration of Indigenous Knowledge through Teachers Training and Technological Innovations, Status and Future Intervention. Dr. Nazimuddin Ahmed, we will come back to you. If you can, sit in a place where there is not much of disturbance.
Okay, madam, okay.
Yeah. Dr. Satish Kumar.
So, may I start, ma'am? Yeah.
Yes, you can start your presentation.
So, very good afternoon to all. So, first of all, I would like to thank you, the organizers, for giving us this particular opportunity to present a paper on the very relevant aspects of teacher learning processes, that is how to integrate the indigenous knowledge into teaching, and how the training component and technology innovation can be used. And in this particular study that was based on Meghalaya state, we try to understand what is the current status in terms of use of indigenous knowledge, level of awareness among the teachers, and what future intervention can be ensured through training and development. If we talk about the background of indigenous knowledge, as we all are aware that knowledge, this particular knowledge may plays a very important role in the learning processes when some specific context, some collective and holistic knowledge is used, and users, it can be possible when the users are familiar with the indigenous knowledges, and if you see the current scenario, in the current education system is emphasized that there must be indigenous knowledge must be used, but the previous educational practices or educational system, it was great extent it was ignored. So now it was just considered by the scholars that there is a need to incorporate this indigenous knowledge in the teaching learning processes, and that will be definitely will be called a holistic education. And but the another concern is how the indigenous knowledge can be incorporated into the existing education system and by using the ICT. So it is very important how ICT can be used to promote the indigenous knowledge in the current practices. If we talk what was the need of this study, so as we all are aware that India is a very deep root regarding indigenous knowledge, and if indigenous knowledge is used, it can serve multiple purposes, like the interest of the learner can be generated and some context and cultural specific learning can be ensured. And even if you see traditionally people preserve and knowledge, traditional knowledge that can be may work as a fundamental aspects for learning. And inclusion of indigenous knowledge in the curriculum can be highly effective approach because it generally will be based on the learner needs only. So as per the learner needs, some indigenous practices can be promoted, and through that way we can ensure the more responsive education system. So this is only because of that reason it was planned key. Let's say understand the respondent's perspective about indigenous knowledge. If we talk about the major aim of this particular study, so the study was undertaken to investigate the teachers' awareness, how much teachers know about the indigenous knowledge. At present, how much the indigenous knowledge is used by the teacher. Then what are the teachers' learning needs in that particular field, how the indigenous knowledge can be used. And again, so how much ITC is used by the teacher in their classroom. And the survey research design was considered the most appropriate for the study. And if we talk about the population of this particular research, so Meghalaya state was the universe of the study, and as per the website of the government of Meghalaya, a total of 3,500.
Can you go to the sample?
Yeah.
Yeah, please go to the sample.
So some other simple random sampling method was used for the selection of 177 schools from primary and upper primary school were selected, 3 secondary, then 2 higher secondary schools. So the total 182 schools were covered under this study. And from 182 selected schools, a total of 440 respondents comprising 364 teachers, 2 from each school, 76 head teachers were selected randomly, and thus the sample size of the study was 440.
Please come to the findings now.
Okay, so these are the major findings. The first finding was into how much teachers were aware about the indigenous knowledge in teaching learning process, and the findings and data of the study shows that the majority of the respondents were aware, somewhere through different sources. It may be social media, it may be some traditional practices they learned, and they understood. They were aware about these 8 to 9 types of indigenous practices. So level of awareness among the respondents was very good. Then how much out of total, suppose if you see indigenous food system, total 221 out of 40 people were aware, and out of that 126 people were using indigenous food system while they're using teachings. And in the same way in other fields also, out of total aware people, so majority of the people were using that indigenous knowledge in their practices. Then next, when we ask about the options for teachers on most important aspects of indigenous knowledge system, so majority of the people stated that practical information must be provided.
Can you come to the conclusion?
So conclusions, my conclusions is the conclusion of the study is based on what kind of roles government can play. The role of the school is very important. Then we have more technological indigenous knowledge based program can be initiated, and how we can incorporate the indigenous knowledge by using the technical tools. So last component that we recommended in the study is how the school curriculum can be benefited by using the indigenous knowledge. So whatever curriculum we are using right now, so it is our responsibility to become practitioner or teacher educator. We need to ensure the indigenous knowledge should be the part of our course curriculum as per the new education policy.
Okay.
These are the some references, conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you for your this systematic presentation. Now can we come to Dr. Nazimuddin Ahmed?
Okay, madam.
Yeah, start presentation and you have 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes, please wind up.
Okay. मैडम स्क्रीन शेयरेबल हो रहा है?
नहीं, we can't see.
Cannot share your screen.
Okay, you start your presentation. It's okay.
नहीं, just share now.
Ma'am, actually, before the sir was presenting, that screen is open, so that's why it's not.
You please close the first one. Yeah.
Madam, now it is visible.
Yes, we can see now.
I'm directly going to my presentation. My title is Ethno Medicinal Practices Among the Tribes of West Bengal. Among the tribes of West Bengal, its relevance, challenges and obstacles in present time. It's a theoretical study. According to World Health Organization, about 80% of the world population depends on traditional medicine for their primary health care. Ethnobotanical medicine or folk medicine plays a significant role in rural as well as among the tribal people throughout the world, not only in India. Hybrid tradition has emerged now due to modernization, globalization, and the unification of global life. The fortune of traditional ethnobotanical medicinal practices cannot remain secluded from these emerging changes in society. Ecological deterioration, drastic climate hazard, loss of biodiversity, etc., create a burden on the survival of medicinal herbs.
Please don't read everything. You just give a gist of the slide. Don't read everything.
In this paper, an attempt has been made to find out ethnobotanical medicinal practices, relevance, and what challenges and obstacles in present time faced by the tribal people of West Bengal for practicing and continuing their age-old ethnobotanical medicinal practices as primary health care in their day-to-day life in this era of modernization, urbanization, and globalization. The traditional healers are the main source of familiarity with medicinal plants. From them, knowledge has been transmitted vocally from generation to generation. In our tribal society in West Bengal, till now, we found many plants and trees that are ritually preserved with, and these are utilized as a good source of medicine in their day-to-day life, especially as a primary healthcare measure. They are collecting these traditional herbs during their reproductive periods, etc., etc. And traditional healers among the West Bengal tribe, especially the elderly generation of this community, follow a ritualistic mode of treatment, sometimes even without any physical medicine, as in this case of mental disorders. Some medicinal plants used among the most tribal people in West Bengal, it also used by general people, that is local name and its scientific name used to treat just like one to eat, that is shal tree or Seria robusta. For ringworm, they used it. Neem, Azadirachta indica. For liver and kidney diseases, they use these medicinal plants. Mainly the elderly of all tribal society in West Bengal are involved in the traditional religious and other activities like various jazz, village priest, medicine men, etc. Some of them who are involved in the traditional healing system get respect from their community people with supernatural power. But at present, tribal youth not interested in their age-old traditional medicinal practices, etc. But it's a very interesting report made by World Bank in 2008 that having just 5% of the world population, indigenous peoples protect 80% of the planet biodiversity. Just imagine, madam, just having 5% global population sharing, indigenous people protect our 85% biodiversity. So it's not only matter on ethnobotanical medicinal practices, but it is a matter of total climate. It's a matter of our biodiversity. So we protect, if we want to protect our biodiversity by heart, we protect our indigenous people and their culture and their medicine.
It's almost time.
At present, main challenges they face are deforestation, human activities and overgrazing by animals, soil erosion, diffusion of socio-cultural network, and expanding worldview of natives. In conclusion, we can say that it has become essential and need of our to focus on the conservation of these plants. This tribal population has good knowledge about the use of the many plants. In West Bengal, it is more vulnerable due to invasion of modern medical practices, deforestation, soil erosion, urbanization, etc., etc. These are that. Okay. Now, thanks.
Thank you for a very relevant topic to the theme of the seminar. So now we'll come to the next presenter, Srinivasan B. The title of the paper is School of Social Science for Geographical Indications with Current Affairs and ICT Tools for the Teaching of Students. Please start your presentation. Srinivasan, are you there? Okay, now we will come to the last presenter, Rana Varunani. Yeah, the paper is Effective Usage of Indigenous Knowledge in Disaster Management, Creating Awareness Among School Children of Nagapattinam. Yeah, you can start your presentation.
Good evening, all present here. I am Varunani, teacher from Nagapattinam district, Tamil Nadu. My topic is research and effective usage of indigenous knowledge in disaster management, creating awareness among school children of Nagapattinam. Why I have taken this topic is nothing but my district Nagapattinam. It lies on the coastal line of Bay of Bengal, and about it has faced many disasters since the last 30 years since its formation. The local people has faced a lot in the disasters and has come a long way with much life force. I want to create a valuable depth of awareness among the school children using indigenous knowledge, and I just want to, the local knowledge is eroding fast, and I just want to make it as documentation within this modernization period. The aims of my topic are to utilize the indigenous knowledge of local people to develop disaster awareness, to develop educational programs on disaster risk reduction, and to create documentation of indigenous knowledge. So the main objectives are usage of indigenous knowledge to understand multiple clauses and consequence relationship between manhood and the environment, to cultivate vitally essential skills and enable children to make accurate verdict in hazardous circumstances. And how I have taken my research, this research was done on the month of January last month. On the time in Tamil Nadu, the schools are closed due to pandemic. So I have taken my research in online mode. I have created a Google form questionnaire about the disaster awareness and circulated it among selected primary and secondary school teachers of the coastal line area. And I have received 15 responses. I have taken that 15 respondent teachers as my primary creators of my research, and I communicated with them regarding the research. And then I have used methodologies like, this is the data abstract of my questionnaire form. We have faced four major disasters in the last decade. There is tsunami, flood, cyclone, Neelam cyclone and Gaja cyclone. And which one is the most effective? They all have mentioned it as tsunami. And are you creating any awareness among the children during heavy rain and cyclone time? This was my question, and the answer is yes. Almost all the 15 teachers are creating awareness regarding this. And can you utilize local knowledge or traditional knowledge of your area people to create awareness? 70% of teachers tell yes, and 30% almost they said no. And I just want to use a methodology slide. Field visit, interview, and observation method, and use ICT tools like Google Forms, live worksheets, WhatsApp, and YouTube. Next one. I had a field visit to nearby coastal villages Sambatotam, Patinacheri, Akarepete, and Kichangupam. These are all coastal villages nearby Nagapattinam. And I had some interview with the elderly people and people of various age groups. And I have uploaded all the recorded videos in Google Drive and shared a link with those 15 respondent teachers and asked them to share with their concerned school WhatsApp groups. The sample video is there. Should play the video. The video should. Okay. Excuse me. The video should play due to time. I left it. The next. The major disasters are tsunami. It happened in 2004 and totally washed off thousands of lives from our Nagapattinam district. And the next one is flood. And flood is not new to our Nagapattinam district. Every year we are facing this. Even last week we have faced a 90 millimeter of heavy rainfall during a day. This was cultivation month in our district, and totally the cultivated crops washed up during this flood. And next, cyclones. And cyclones are not new to Nagapattinam during the November and December. Every November and December we face cyclones, and the most memorable cyclone in the last decade is Gaja cyclone in 2018. It has washed off thousands of trees from our Nagapattinam district, and we have faced 20 no electricity days after this Gaja cyclone. Next. After this observation method, I have used to share awareness videos regarding cyclone and flood from YouTube to the concerned WhatsApp school groups, and I have shared that awareness posters circulated by our Tamil Nadu government to the school groups. Yeah, yes, no, it's there. Next. There is a documentation of screenshots in the school groups. Next. Disaster preparedness on coastal areas is rescue, relocation, provision of food and shelter, and those things. These pictures are for multi-hazardous shelters provided by the government to the people, these pictures. And for all this disaster preparedness, before government, the indigenous people, the local people of that area are on first hand to rescue them, to relocate them, to provide temporary shelter. All those things are done by the indigenous people at first, before the government. Next. After this, I have created ample awareness. I have prepared live worksheets and circulated this among the school groups. Yeah, this is the conclusion. I have circulated this live worksheets and I get results. And from the result, I come to the conclusion that before awareness, they have achieved a 45%. And after awareness, the students have achieved around 85% in disaster management skills. And my recommendations are disaster awareness in academic curriculum is must vital for these coastal line children. Indigenous knowledge should be acknowledged and carried over for generation. And safety precaution deeds like now indigenous people are ready to swim. They are swimming, they are climbing, and they are rescue from fire. All the things they are doing, but our children, this generation children, are not knowing these skills. So these skills should be included in the curriculum. These are my recommendations, and I'm glad for your attention to my presentation. Thank you, NERIE and NCERT. It's time for me to answer your questions. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you for a very interesting presentation. The topic is very interesting and very relevant to school education. So thank you so much, and thank you all the presenter. I would like to thank the co-chair, Dr. Basansi, and all the technical, team of NERIE-ICT. So we'll move on to the next session. Sorry for the delay. We have started late also. So you can take over, sir. Thank you for the next session. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor Bala, for quickly finishing towards the end. Now I can say that we are late by half an hour. So be prepared up to 7. Esteemed Dr. Romila Soni, co-chairperson. And Dr. Romila, can you please unmute your video She is from Department of Elementary Education, Dr. Romila Soni, an associate professor. Okay, thank you.
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Thank
yes,
you.
sir. Good
You are
afternoon,
led
sir.
by,
Sir,
yes, I know under difficult situation you have joined. Okay.
yes, sir. I would be joining. Like in 10 minutes, I will be joining in a comfortable and
Okay. So
appropriate
the
environment.
theme
Just
of
give me 10
the
minutes.
session is indigenous knowledge and history, culture, philosophy, and polity. As you know, traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge, and aboriginal knowledge. These are interchangeably used. And they are mostly, they find their expression in culture, tradition, religion, legend, folklores, rituals, songs, games, dance, mythology, visual arts, and performing arts, architecture, and so on. So there are 20 papers. Who are the with the rapporteur? Rapporteur, can you please come here? Please come here. So, as I so this is how our indigenous or traditional knowledge is reflected. And I was going through 20 papers. I analyzed the 20 papers, and I find the most of the papers are on tribal knowledge, are on tribal indigenous knowledge from Nagaland, Odisha, and West Bengal, etc. I can see a paper by Dr. Vivek Singh, paper by Anthony Joseph, paper by Jafar Iqbal and Dr. Subhas Mishra, by Dr. Anand Paul, then Dr. Rasmi, then Dr. Rasmi, and Dr. Vivek Yakhwa, is on indigenous tribal knowledge, and also by Prakash Chandra Kasera. And I find 3 papers on how to integrate indigenous knowledge in school curriculum. And they are Vidhan Gantayat. He has a paper on how to integrate indigenous knowledge in geography curriculum or geography lessons. And then by Sabyasachi Das, he's from Odisha. He also has a paper on how to integrate indigenous knowledge on social science. And by Mr. Devajyoti Dutt Saikia, also again how to integrate in geography curriculum. And 3 papers on how to integrate indigenous knowledge through games, or how games find reflection of indigenous knowledge. They are by Muhammad Hassan, paper by Muhammad Hassan, paper by Dr. Anjali Sharma and Mary Rai, and also by K. Bhagyalakshmi. So there are also papers how indigenous knowledge is reflected in our philosophy, Indian philosophy. There are 3 such papers, one by Ravinder Kaur, one by that how ancient Indian philosophy reflects our indigenous knowledge, and also one by Pawan Singh Kuswa, and other by Muhammad Samil Bhi. Then there is also another paper, how we can integrate indigenous knowledge in pedagogy. This is a paper by Shubham Mahesh Gajbhe. So this is the paper. In summary, I can say that we have diverse papers on integration of indigenous knowledge in history, and how they find the reflection in culture, language, games, and Indian philosophy. So now I'll be adopting a technique, that random method. You see, we'll adopt random method. There are, it is not, will not go serially. We'll go by lottery method. So that, and I expect that all the presenters will remain till the end. Because we should also respect others. When somebody listens to you, you also should listen to others. When there will be no participants at the end, because we will be ending maybe at 7, so we should respect others. And also I'll be adopting another technique, 5 minutes for each paper. When there will be 4 minutes, there will be a bell. There will be a bell. I have kept a bell. So this bell, and then in 1 minute they have to finish. This is a disciplined way of making presentation, so that we can finish on time. Because it's a difficult job on my part to finish it before 7 at least. If we will find time, then we can also, at the end, I can invite few questions from the participants. You take note of it. So now let us start. Serial number. Dekho. Serial number 2. Prakash Chandra Kasera. The paper is on ethnic food items and culinary practices of Kasera community in Mijapur district and its relevance to the school education. I think he's from your own community. Okay. Make a presentation. Start your presentation now, and you keep it. 4 minutes, then ring. Dr. Kasera, if it's a research paper, again, let me tell you that if it's a research paper starts with title, then directly go to objectives, then methodology, and then findings. Nothing in between. So if it's a research paper, directly go to objectives. If it's a research paper, it's a theoretical. So try to finish on time. Don't read, only tell the important points.
Namaskar all of you. Today's topic I am going to discuss ethnic food items and culinary practices of Kasera community in Mirzapur district and its relevance to the school education. Kasera community, to which I belong, is a community who traditionally makes utensils of brass and copper. I'm going to tell about what are the unique food items consumed and the culinary practices by Kasera community in Mirzapur district. Mirzapur is a district in Uttar Pradesh, and the speciality of this community is that they use some dishes made from plants that are considered weeds or hay available in the vicinity. These plants are found in abundance in nutrients, and the common man is unaware of it. These plants are chakwar, chena, koi. In the paper, I have given the botanical name of all these plants, so that I am not going to discuss. In the Kasera community, the chakwar, chena, and koi plants are cut light color in vegetables and used to make roti, parathas, and fritters. In the paper, I have given the nutritional information of chakwar, chena, koi to make roti. You can see in the table, and in the next table, I have given the nutritional value of one chakwar, chena, koi roti. That is also given in the table I have given. So, in these two tables, we can draw the finding that children of primary and upper primary schools, where children in the age group of 6 to 14, requirement can be made through rotis made from the leaves of these locally accessible plants. In the coming time, where there will be a shortage of cultivable land, or there will be a shortage of water for irrigation, or in the places where it is still there, plants like chakor, chena, koi, cooler, acacia, etc. will become invaluable means of obtaining nutrients. In the next, I have given some culinary practices used by Kasera community. I am not going to mention all of these. I have given just eating dal bhuna, beet bugri, तीसरी फकना, महुआ पराठा, गुलगुला हलवा, बजरी रोटी, तिंगरी अचार, पलमुचिया, पिन्नी, हरबड़ा, परमल. So the implications of these culinary practices by Kasera community is that these most of the dishes are very quick recipe, very digestible, and very nutritious. The relevance of ethnic food items of Kasera community to the school education is that ethnic people and their children understand that their culture is backward. Your schools do not promote ethnic culture and those festivals, cuisines, etc., which are related to children of a particular culture. Only festivals like Diwali, Christmas, and New Year are celebrated in the school. Due to this feeling in the children of Kasera community of interwood district, inferiority complex is created. The importance of the ethnic practices of cooking also lies in the fact that it can generate employment for many people. We are definitely taught to make PPT and Excel sheets in school, but we are not told about how we can benefit from limited sources like indigenous or local flora. Today, the result of ignoring indigenous ethnic knowledge is that big companies are selling plants found around us in the form of online products. I have given some websites. They are selling the 1 kg of koi saag for 60 on big basket. The other plants are also being sold. I have given in the paper. So the recommendations for school curriculum is that at school class level, local ethnic group students should be identified and their culture should be encouraged. As far as possible, invite the elders of the house, like grandparents, who know about indigenous traditions on Thursday. In the school premises, such plants must be planted which are used as food or medicine in the local community, which are commonly known as grits.
Thank you.
In conclusion, I just want to say that when children from upper and middle class homes as well as teachers themselves bring foreign dishes to school, this behavior gets absorbed in the minds of lower class children.
Thank you. Thank you, Prakash ji. Absolutely nice presentation, and this is an example. I can say how the things can be presented in a very summarized way. Now we'll go to Dr. Rasmi. Dr. Rasmi at serial number 6. Her paper is on traditional education system in Nagaland. Dr. Rasmi, your time starts now.
So my screen is visible?
Yes. It is coming.
Yes. Good evening to all of you.
If it's a research paper, then title, objectives, methodology, and findings.
So this is a theoretical paper, so I will try to finish the first. So, respected Professor Nityanand Pradhan sir, Dr. Romila Soni ma'am, eminent educationists, rapporteurs, and my dear friends present over here, I'm very glad and thanking the organization to give me a chance to present a paper in this national seminar. The topic which I am going to present today is the traditional education system, a special reference of Mora in Naga tradition. When we will talk about the Nagaland, so I will not take much time, but this is the state which is coming at the 4th position, 4th smallest state it is, and it has 16 districts and it has 16 tribes in measure. The study objective of the study is to observe the rich indigenous knowledge and culture of Nagaland state, to emphasize the importance of indigenous knowledge of Nagaland with special reference of Moram, and to emphasize the importance of indigenous knowledge and skills in present context for the Nagaland state. Totally analytical method I have used for this research, and for the analysis different literatures have been reviewed, and some primary and secondary sources of the information were also have been taken up. Now when we will talk about the Naga tradition and culture. So the Naga traditions and the Nagas are known for their rich and oral history and culture. The Naga folklores and folk songs include all parts of their lives, including antiquity, religious beliefs, politics, stories, romance, and love. Their rich folklores and folk songs reflect their great awareness and reverence for nature and everything around them. They believe in God and the nature, and according to the Nagas, God were defending them from the anger of the nature. Now, we will talk about our main thing, which is the Morang, and the Morang is the dormitory system. It was an essential social institutions, and Morang, it is the common term for all the Naga tribes, but it has the different name for the different tribes like Arju in Ao, Chumpo in Lotha, Kichuki in Angami, Ranki in Maram, and Haki in Chang, and so on. Now when we will talk about the functions of the Morang. So a well-organized Morang system was existed in every Naga villages. It was a vital part of the Naga culture survivals, and it is a site where future generation can learn about the past glories, customs, tradition, and conflicts, and so on. The Morang was crucial in preparing young generation for village council position. The Morang assists as a training center, a boys' hostel, and a gathering place for the older people. When we will talk about the functions of the Morang, the main 5 functions of the Morang was there, which is defense of the village, center for the cultural activities, educational center, community service center, and training center. Now when we will talk about the influence of the missionaries in the modern and the modernization of education on the Morang. So since the late 19th century, British colonial rule came, and it affected the Naga tradition and Morang system also. And so that, in conclusion, the rise of Christianity had a negative impact on the Morang system, and that time the dormitory operations were seized. And the meaning that Britishers, they were discouraging the indigenous people for this, evolving or to build the Morang system, and for in many ways they were succeeded also. Now when we will see, because the Morang was the very much, it was consisting the indigenous knowledge of each and everything, and it was the way of life. So we all know that without the incorporating local expertise and development program will not be able to provide long-term answers to the local concern, because now what we are, our scientific or the technological development and enhancement, whatever it has now, it is a result of that traditional knowledge and systems. So when we will come on to the importance and conclusion, the Morang system, educational system, was extremely valuable and relevant to the people. And since it was assisting young people in developing character and attitude formation, such as civic duties, and it is also same time emphasizing by the NEP 2020 policy the introduction of modern education, as well as...
Thank you, Dr. Rasmi. This is a classic example of a qualitative ethnographic study. So,
Yes.
And this is the trend of the type. So this is a very nice presentation also. So then we will go to the next presenter.
Okay, sir, can I recommend read some recommendations?
serial number 9. It's Dr. Vivekano Yakwa. The paper is again on educational equality in Nagaland, a comparative study of modern and indigenous education system. And again, I repeat that directly go to title, objectives, methodology, and findings. So over to Dr. Hideko Yoka. Your time starts now. Dr. Yoka is there?
Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Okay.
Hello?
Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay. So the title of my paper is Educational Equality in Nagaland, a comparative study of modern education and indigenous education. Are the slides moving?
No.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Slides. Have you slides?
Yes, sir.
Then you make presentation.
Sir, are my slides moving?
You don't have slides?
I have slides. I have slides.
Okay. You make a presentation.
Sir, I'm unable to operate my slides. Can I just present this way? Hello, sir.
It is not visible, Dr. Yoka.
Yes, sir. Can I just present orally then, sir? Without.
Yes. No problem. You just make a summary of important points.
Yes, sir. So this is a comparative study of the indigenous system and the modern education system. The modern education system being one of the major impact of colonialism, it is seen to have how I view colonial modern education is that it has largely determined the members of a new society, the modern Naga society, with the coming of the American missionaries. Though modern education had encountered resistance in the beginning, it was gradually accepted and it came to formal establishment. The gaining of statehood also gave it a further strengthened the establishment of modern education. And now the present scenario shows a growth rate in literacy rate, increase in number, variety of schools from the government-run schools to different types of private-owned schools. However, before the modern education system, the existence of the indigenous learning system, which the previous presenter had also talked about, the Morung system. The indigenous system comprised not only of the Morung system, but also the family. The household, and the Morung were both part of the indigenous learning system. And as mentioned, it existed in different names among the different tribes with different operational system. But the main aim of the Morung was to serve as a platform for transmission of knowledge, values, ethics, cultures from the older generation to the younger generation. And therefore, this was a necessity for any young citizen to become responsible and useful member of the community. However, the coming of the modern education and Christianity saw the decline and slow that of Morungs and the family, the household as an education system. My paper is basically is analytical in nature, and I have referred to mostly secondary sources for data generation. Then apart from the different names, the indigenous education comprised of a curriculum which consisted of civic duties, community ethics, hunting, handicrafts, culture, history, dancing, in strict discipline, which were all done orally. And then the nature of the Morungs also varied from different tribes. Tribes like the Angamis and the Tangkuls had the Morung at a person's house, whereas the Aus and the Konyaks had a separate house. Now, on attaining puberty, all members were, both male and female, were admitted to their respective Morungs. until marriage. However, the presence of female Morungs have been debated. Among certain tribes like Poms, they mention female Morungs. However, among the other tribes like the Aus, they have mentioned only the concept of a concept that is similar to the female Morungs and not exactly a female Morung, where women were taught skills, social etiquettes from homemaking to childbirth to menstrual cycle, and the Morung also acted as matrimonial platforms. Then, as mentioned earlier, the family, each household was also seen as an educational institution. However, with the coming of the modern education, the involvement of parents also became less because there was a gap between educated children and illiterate parents. Then there was a change in the content and form, which was not in alignment with the Nagas' everyday life. Then there was the coming of the modern education did not just affect the family and the Morung as indigenous educational centers, but there was also a larger hierarchical structure. Then with the coming of modern education, the indigenous systems were seen. The indigenous system were judged on the parameters, on Western parameters, cultures like singing, dancing, drinking, and were seen as.
These are your findings.
Okay, sir, I'll come to my conclusion then. I have 6 main points for conclusion. On the basis of educational equality and a particular focus on gender, the modern education is seen to have a more egalitarian approach, providing the same content for both genders, male and female alike. However, unlike the indigenous education, which had differentiated content for the male and female. However, on the basis of socio-economic roots, modern education is seen to create rural-urban divide and government-private gaps, which have socio-economic roots, while the indigenous form of education was egalitarian. And sir, can I finish? The indigenous education is also seen to ensure the future of a learner. However, the modern education system does not ensure employment. So my recommendation for the accommodation of an indigenous education in the modern system is that it should lay more emphasis on the methods where the learner has practicality and relevance, a sense of identity and belongingness to the community, and which should emphasize on the methods and means and less on the content.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. B.V. Yoka. It's a nice comparative study using descriptive research methodology. And go to the next presentation now. That is by Jafar Iqbal and Dr. Subhash Mishra. That is a study.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
So now Dr. Jafar Iqbal and Dr. Subhash Mishra, please start your presentation.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you.
This is Dr. Subhash Mishra from Education Department, Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar University.
Oh, okay, Dr. Mishra.
Sir, actually, Jafar Iqbal, he is doing research on Gujar tribal community, and he is staying in Jammu and Kashmir since last 6 months, and it's his qualitative study. So he is trying his best to do justice with this community, and actually this community is a pastoral community. So he will discuss about it. And now I hand over to stage this to Jafar Iqbal. Jafar Iqbal, please continue.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. A very good evening to our respected chairperson, Professor Nityanand Rai, sir, and all other dignitaries and presented who are presented here. Sir, is my screen is visible here?
Yes. Come to objectives. Come to objectives.
Okay. So this is the title, and directly I'm coming to the objectives. So these are the objectives. Sir, is this slide is available?
Visible.
Okay. So this is our objectives to study the socio-cultural perspective of education among Gujar community of Rajouri district, which is located in J&K. The next one is to give some suggestions and recommendations for the development of indigenous tribal Gujar community with reference to school curriculum. So these are the two objectives, and this is the methodology how I collected this information. So based on the primary and secondary data as well. So I collected 120 respondents. I collected the data from 120 respondents, which I have interviewed during my field work. So in which we have 50 parents, 50 students, and 20 teachers we have randomly selected for this study, sir. And secondary data is collected from relevant publications in journals and Census of India 2001 and 11, sir. So it is also analyzed, this study is also analyzed from appearance perspective to study the socio-cultural perspective of this indigenous community, tribal Gujar community of Rajouri district of Jammu. Okay, sir. And now I am showing this. This is a table that's showing literacy rate of J&K in comparison to India, sir. So this is the male literacy rate at national level, which is 59.
That's not necessary. You go to your data.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I will directly jump to the findings of my study, sir, which is based on my study. Sir, based on the interview and observations.
Can you bring it to presentation mode? Letters are too small. Can you bring it to PowerPoint presentation mode?
Yes, sir. I am doing it here, sir. But is it
from the current slide? From the current slide.
Okay, sir.
Is not coming. Okay. Otherwise, not from current slide.
Sir, is it visible now, sir?
It is visible, but
not
went back.
Okay. I think in my system.
Okay. It is a nice study, and we want to hear your findings.
Yes, sir. So, is this slide is visible, sir? These are my findings.
Okay. Carry on.
So based on interview, I mentioned these findings of my study, and first one is sir, these are the main factors those who are interconnected with the constraints and hinder those children who are facing during the schooling in variety of ways based on what we have learned, and so I have mentioned here. So first one is sir poverty that I have cited during that. And sir, this poverty has been cited as a major factor by 34% parents and 21% students and 12% teachers. It has been found that 23% students have never attended schools or have dropped out due to poverty. And
only read out the headings. These percentages of no meaning. Only read out the headings. Okay.
Yes, sir. And next one is the lack of awareness among parents and towards education, sir. This is the second one, and third one is sir. This is third one, sir. Third factor is sir corruption and lack of accountability, sir. And fifth one is sir negative attitude, negative teacher attitude, sir, which have also been cited in that. And the fifth one is sir illiteracy. These are the major factors, sir. Those who are responsible for the hindrance in the way of schooling of the children, or schooling of the students, those who are blind to this indigenous tribal communities, sir. And now I'm directly going to the conclusion, sir.
Jafar, socio-cultural perspective. You discussed socio-cultural perspective.
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, sir, what I have learned through this, sir, keeping in view their socio-cultural perspective of this indigenous tribal community, sir. So keeping in view their knowledge, their values, their tradition, and their migratory nature of their movement, sir. So based on that, sir, these factors are directly linked to their socio-cultural, through which they are facing these problems during their schooling, during their migratory days. So that's why they one of the mobile schemes were also started for that to cater these needs. But still they are facing, sir, these issues while during the studies, during their student studies, sir.
Thank you. Thank you both Dr. Subhas Mishra and Jafar Iqbal for this is a kind of study which makes use of both qualitative and quantitative data, and some qualitative techniques also have been adopted, like discussion, etc. And I can say it is also a combination of descriptive study and ethnographic study. Thank you very much. Now let us go to the next. Now we'll go to Rajat Sharma. His पेपर इज ऑन मध्यकालीन हिंदी में इतिहास लेखन का शुरू. So this also must reflect about the indigenous knowledge in medieval period, particularly in language. Over to Rajat Sharma. Okay. Michael.
थैंक यू सर. तो मेरा विषय है कि मेडिवल बेस टेक्स्ट जो है मेरे उसका वो मेडिवल टाइम पीरियड का टेक्स्ट है, जैसे वार्ता साहित्य कहा गया है, और उसके बेस पर जो इंडियन हिस्टोरियोग्राफी है, जो भारतीय इतिहास लेखन है, पहले उसके स्वरूप पर बात की गई है और उसके साथ साथ किस तरीके से हम आज अगर दोबारा से इतिहास लेखन लिखें या तो उसमें उन तत्वों को किस तरीके से बात कर सकते हैं. पहले मैं एक बेसिक वार्ता साहित्य का परिचय. वार्ता साहित्य दरअसल उस समय के जो भक्त हुए हैं उनका एक आंशिक परिचय देता है और उसके आधार पर तो वार्ता साहित्य मूलतः जो समय के भक्त हुए हैं उनका साहित्यिक परिचय है जो छंदबद्ध है, और उसे छंदबद्ध होने के कारण साहित्य की कोटि में रखा गया लेकिन इतिहास नहीं माना गया. तो प्रॉब्लम यहीं से चालू होती है कि हम उसे इतिहास माने, और जब हम उसके स्वरूप को देखते हैं तो दरअसल वो मिडिवल टाइम पीरियड में जब लोक परंपरा डेवलप होती है तो उसी में ही वार्ता साहित्य भी डेवलप होता है और लोक परंपराओं में डेवलप होता है, जिसके अंदर जो उस समय का जो सामूहिक मानस है, जो सामाजिक मानस है, वो उसके द्वारा उस सामाजिक मानस में जो वो भक्त प्रशस्ति पाता है वो उस कृति में स्थान पाता है. जब हम आज के आधुनिक इतिहास लेखन पे बात करते हैं तो आज के आधुनिक इतिहास लेखन में हम व्यक्ति का इतिहास दर्शन या इतिहास दृष्टि तो लिखते हैं, लेकिन जो समूह की जो इतिहास दृष्टि है या समाज की जो सामूहिक मानस है उसका इतिहास नहीं लिखते हैं. जबकि भारतीय इतिहास लेखन सामूहिक मानस का इतिहास लिखता था और और मध्यकाल में ये लोक परंपरा से जुड़कर और अच्छी तरह डेवलप होता है. इसी तरीके से जब हम मौखिक उसमें मध्यकाल में जाते हैं तो वो मौखिक परंपरा में डेवलप होता है क्योंकि लोक के वजह से. तो मौखिक परंपरा जो थी वो एक पद्धति थी जो एक सामूहिक जनमानस से आसानी से जुड़ सकती थी, और आज का इतिहास लेखन उस जो मौखिक इतिहास लेखन की जो परंपरा है उसको भूल चुका है कि अगर हम मौखिकता के माध्यम से इतिहास को लिखना चालू करेंगे तो हमें सामूहिक जनमानस का या फिर समाज के जनमानस का सरलता से उस तक हम अपनी पहुंच बना सकते हैं. इसी तरीके से जो सृजनात्मकता है जो कि साहित्यिक शैली के माध्यम से उस इतिहास को लिखा गया मध्यकाल में, हम वो साहित्यिक शैली आज के इतिहास लेखन में पूरी तरीके से चुप खाते हैं कि वहां पर वो है नहीं, उपस्थित नहीं है. यदि हम उस सृजनात्मक लेखन के माध्यम से उसको लिखेंगे तो इतिहास से केवल हम वस्तुनिष्ठ या तथ्यों से जानकारी प्राप्त नहीं करेंगे, हम उसे संवेदनात्मक रूप में उससे महसूस करेंगे. और साहित्य एक ऐसी शैली है जिसमें अनुभवों के माध्यम से, अनुभूतियों के माध्यम से चीजों को कहा जाता है. तो इतिहास भी अनुभूतियों का इतिहास हो जो आज के टाइम में इतिहास हम लेखन में नहीं देखते हैं और उसे उस तरीके से डेवलप कर सकते हैं. इसी तरीके से जो प्रयोजन की बात की जाती है तो मध्यकाल में वो पुरुषार्थ चतुष्टय का प्रयोजन रखा गया है, जबकि और यदि हम उसके बेस पे बात करें तो आध्यात्मिक उत्थान को लक्ष्य बनाया गया है जो कि मोक्ष की बात करता है. लेकिन यदि हम उसे आज आम भाषा में कहें तो दरअसल चारित्रिक, नैतिक और जो मूल्य आधारित व्यक्तित्व है उसकी स्थापना करने का प्रयास भारतीय इतिहास लेखन करता आया है। जबकि हम समस्या पे बात करते हैं आज के इतिहास लेखन में, लेकिन हम उस मूल्य आधारित शिक्षा की तरफ नहीं जा रहे हैं, वो शिक्षा हमें नैतिकता नहीं प्रदान कर रही, ना वो हमें चरित्र प्रदान कर रही है, वो केवल हमें सिर्फ एक ज्ञान दे रही है। तो हम भारतीय इतिहास लेखन को जब हम आज के इतिहास लेखन से जोड़ेंगे, तब वो हमें इस दिशा में आगे बढ़ाएगा। इसी तरीके से आदर्शात्मकता जो एक विशेषता रही है भारतीय इतिहास लेखन की, कि आदर्श स्थितियों पर बात की जाती थी, तो वो हम आज के इतिहास में हम ओझल पाते हैं। हम समस्या पे बात करते हैं, लेकिन समाधान मूलक समस्या की तरफ नहीं बढ़ते हैं। तो हम इस तरीके से आदर्शात्मक इतिहास लेखन की ओर भी बढ़ना चाहिए। इसके अलावा कार्य कारण संबंध की स्थिति आती है कि जब हम भारतीय इतिहास में देखते हैं तो आदर्श स्थिति में कार्य कारण संबंध के द्वारा प्रगति को नहीं दिखा सकते। आदर्श की स्थिति यही है कि आदर्श में व्यक्ति उच्च स्थान पर मौजूद है, जबकि यथार्थ में उस क्रम को हम कार्य कारण संबंध के द्वारा दिखाते हैं। जबकि हम वर्तमान उसमें इन दोनों को जोड़कर जो आदर्श स्थिति है, उस आदर्श स्थिति तक किस तरीके से पहुंचा जाए, इस प्रक्रिया का अनुकरण किया जाए, उसमें हम कार्य कारण संबंध, जो कि आज आधुनिक चिंतन सिद्धांत है इतिहास का, उसका प्रयोग कर सकते हैं। इस तरीके से संश्लिष्ट रूप में भारतीय और जो समकालीन इतिहास लेखन है उससे जोड़कर हम देख सकते हैं। इसके अलावा हमें इतिहासकार के कर्म पे भी बात की जाती है। समकालीन इतिहास चिंतन जो है इतिहासकार के कर्म पर बात करता है और इतिहास की दृष्टि को महत्वपूर्ण मानता है। तो किस तरह और जबकि हम देखते हैं भारतीय इतिहास में, जबकि वो इतिहासकार नहीं है, वह भक्त हो सकता है, कवि हो सकता है, वो आम मनुष्य हो सकता है, लेकिन वो इतिहासकार नहीं है। इसी तरीके से जो आज जो इतिहासकार है उसे एक सृजनकर्ता होना भी जरूरी है, ताकि वो इतिहास के साथ साथ एक सृजनात्मक स्वरूप और एक कंस्ट्रक्टिव निष्कर्ष की तरफ आगे बढ़े। तो मेरा एक धन्यवाद।
Very nice presentation, Dr. Rajat Sharma. You have explored or identified some critical issues in writing history. And as you said, history should not be information oriented, and now also NCERT is thinking of rewriting history. There are so many critical issues associated with the writing of history that you have rightly pointed out. Thank you very much, Rajatji. Now we'll go to the next presentation. That is by serial number 16, Anthony Joseph. Anthony Joseph.
Sir, I am present, sir.
You have discussed about indigenous tribal people in general. So let us see. Slides are not moving. Please change your slides.
Sir, I'm on the first slide, sir. Paper outline.
Your slide.
Can you see
moving.
paper outline, sir?
Not moving.
Which slide are you? Which is the slide you're able to see, sir?
It is at social engineering.
Okay. I think somewhere I am stuck in this. Okay, sir. I'll just move it. So I have said that the academic field of education is very reluctant to abandon social engineering, which means for us to be able to accommodate various sources of knowledge, for example, like the indigenous knowledge, it cannot escape the current conventions that seems to color how we digest, how we disseminate, analyze, and accept knowledges. So I have argued the curricular integration of essential subject skills and capacities is the title under which NEP 2020 asks for this curricular integration. Academic disciplines and fields of study, I am saying, is often constructed according to convention at the expense of creativity and imagination. Therefore, particularly Adivasi or indigenous knowledge, they are sometimes subjected to the mythical Procrustes is bed, where knowledge is chipped and chopped to suit our current curriculum. I also say that curriculum integration, as lofty as it seems, is a fraught enterprise, because embracing diversity aided by empathy and cultural intelligence being the larger goals of integration, It requires a complete mindset. It is not just the recommendation of certain parts of additions into the school textbooks, but I say we can look up to the Adivasi indigenous people for inspiration, and when we do it, it can be surprisingly powerful. This is what I have pointed out in my paper. I make a strong claim in the paper asking whether this cultural integration is bigoted nationalism or inclusive solidarity. Why do I say this? In a climate that seems to privilege certain information and knowledge, for example, misinformed statements like the DNA of the people of India has been the same for 40,000 technology are highly racialized. Adivasi indigenous ways of knowing and being attract little or no merit. Clearly at odds with the humane imperative, no one is included until everyone is included. Moving on, I've also argued that there is a tendency to generalize the indigenous. A careful analysis of Adivasi knowledge will determine that our brains are wired for social connection. I conclude by saying, all is not lost. The road forward is by integrating Adivasi ways of knowing and being entails recognizing exclusion, unpacking the history, philosophy, and modern day applications to deliver a rousing call to action for anyone who wants to improve our lives and the lives of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anthony Joseph. In fact, when we say indigenous knowledge per se, it refers to the understanding and distinctiveness of indigenous people or tribal people that you have tried to bring to the fore in your paper. So thank you very much. Now we will go to the next presentation. That is by Pawan Kumar. Sabidya ya Bhumute. Education is that which liberates. So that is also a kind of indigenous knowledge that is reflected in our Upanishad. So let us listen to Praveen Singh Kushwaha and how to integrate in school education. So your time starts now. Praveen Singh Kushwaha. Is he there? Praveen ji, aap hai? Are you there? Okay. So now let us go to the next presenter. That is Joginder Kumar. So now the last presenter, in fact, is serial number 20. And his paper is on Shikshak और कक्षा की भाषा समन्वय एक तार्किक विश्लेषण जवाहरलाल नेहरू जवाहरलाल नवोदय विद्यालय के संदर्भ में. So it is a kind of experiential paper that is by Joginder Kumar. Perhaps he is a teacher in JNV somewhere.
They have different stories. They have different sayings. Like when this plant grow, there is suggestion that we should do this activity. Or when this particular bird sing, that is time for sowing. When this particular bird comes, there is a time for harvesting. So this kind of sign and symptoms they take from the nature. And regarding climatic condition, they have various sayings, various tales about when rain will occur, or what is the sign and symptom of good rainfall, and what is sign and symptoms of no rainy time. And not only this, they have also different stories for values, or like what to do and what not to do. They have different stories for value, like what to do and what not to do. In my paper, I have given 3-4 stories for that. I will not read the stories here because I have given only 4 minutes time.
It's more than 6 minutes.
Okay, okay, madam. And regarding the education, we found that they have no formal system of education in earlier days. They have no kind of any dormitory or any system.
क्या आप लोग आप लोग क्या
हाँ मैम वो लोग थे
Just give one information.
अच्छा
How it is
हो गया
explored.
हाँ
अच्छा से हो गया सब कुछ
हाँ
This is exploratory study because we have visited in that area. We have visited in that area and we try to talk to people what knowledge you have in earlier days. And we have learned, we have listened their stories. Although we have used some a questionnaire also schedule, but we have also
कैसे लाइक अभी लाइक आ गया ना लाइक आ गया तो
yes sir.
ठीक
Information about
क्या कर रहा है वहाँ से वो कोड दिया ना हम डाल लिया ना जूम का अपना
बंद कर देगा क्या करेगा
ये वाला I don't know yeah, this one ask from Joe ना
क्योंकि वो चल तो नहीं रहा है
हाँ stop हो गया तेरे
तो हम क्या करेगा
concentrating on a
दो ही लोग देख रहे हैं
हाँ नहीं क्या
इधर दिख रहा था दो ही लोग देख रहे हैं दो ही बस वो भी आ रहा है जा रहा है
व्यू
हाँ वो व्यू दिखता है ना उधर करंटली कौन देख रहा था फिर जीरो था फिर 25 मिनट आधा घंटे बाद एक आया
I want to say one sentence only, sir. Sir, there are some researches on traditional
बाहर आ गया है
system,
मेरे
but
को
there
आता
is
भी
no
नहीं
research
ऑफिस से
on
चालू करना
how they have transferred their information from one generation to another generation. I have tried.
अभी नहीं केस
फिर हमको क्या मालूम कि कैसे होता है तो जो करके गया था और ये लाइक गया अभी तो जो हमको बोल के गया था बस कि हमको ये पता है इसका कैसे क्या करना है वो बोल के गया था बंद करना है तो बंद कर दो सबका क्रॉस है हम बोला ठीक है बंद कर देगा बाकी अभी तो बंद हो गया है
और ये लाइफ में चल रहा है
कौन सा
देर में हाँ ये तो
धीरे धीरे खुला आवाज जा रहा है
नहीं बंद हो गया तो वो स्ट्रीमिंग
हाँ बंद हो गया
जोगिंदर कुमार
क्या करेगा
आगे से क्यों नहीं बोला अभी बोल दिया
जोगिंदर कुमार
अच्छा जोगिंदर जी आगे ओके okay then we'll come to get prepared Mr. Devajyoti Dutt Saikia after Joginder Kumar.
Okay, thank you sir. My topic is शिक्षा कक्ष की भाषा समन्वय. मेरा टॉपिक है भाषा और शिक्षक को लेकर आपस में क्या संबंध है. तो जवाब महोदय हल्ले के संदर्भ में ये एक स्टडी है जो हरियाणा जिले में की गई. इसमें बेसिकली हमने ये फाइंड आउट करने की कोशिश की कि स्कूल में स्टूडेंट्स की क्या एक्सपेक्टेशंस होती है स्पेशली लैंग्वेज को लेके और स्पेशली जब इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का आर्टिकल 350A जो है वो भाषाई शिक्षा पर फोकस करता है. तो भारत के संस्कृति मंत्रालय भी पर अपनी उन्होंने बात की है. मैं सीधा रिसर्च क्वेश्चन आता हूँ. मेरे रिसर्च क्वेश्चंस हैं
वो लाइफ डे आउट है
हाँ बट इधर नहीं जा रहा है
शिक्षकों के अति वंचित वर्ग शेड्यूल कास्ट शेड्यूल ट्राइब्स और माइनॉरिटी के जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनकी भाषा में क्या समझ है. दूसरा
ये तो कर ही सकता है ना बंद सिर्फ लाइफ के लिए तो चलाया है ये
स्टूडेंट्स के अपने एक्सपीरियंसेस क्या है. तीसरा भाषाई समस्या और जो वंचित वर्ग है यानी डिसएडवांटेज ग्रुप के जो स्टूडेंट हैं उनकी
तो गाना गा रहा था कच्चा वाला
इन सर्विस
जो बोला
जो भाषाई महत्व है वो किस तरीके से लिया जाता है. सैंपल है उसको क्लास ऑब्जर्वेशन और
यूपीएस खराब हो जाएगा
कलेक्ट करने की कोशिश की है
जल्दी गया शायद
और जो क्लास
इसे जल्दी में तो खराब हो जाता
कंक्लूजन्स आपको बता देता हूं जो
है देखो फ्लाइट मालूम ना फ्लक्चुएशन
विद्यार्थियों द्वारा कक्षा में दिए गए उदाहरण जो होते
ये अभी ये बंद कर दे
भाषाई मानक बर्नस्टीन ने भी कहा था कि भाषाई मानक के अनुरूप न होने के कारण शिक्षक क्लास में तवज्जो नहीं देते. उनकी इम्पोर्टेंस उनकी स्वीकार्यता क्लास में नहीं होती. शिक्षकों की भाषा में अपनी आंचलिक भाषा का प्रभाव भी कक्षा को और मुश्किल बनाता है. यानी जहाँ तक एक और स्टूडेंट्स की अपनी भाषा क्लास में कहीं ना कहीं टीचर को प्रभावित कर रही है वहीं कहीं ना कहीं टीचर की अपनी लैंग्वेज जो रीजनल लैंग्वेज है वो भी क्लास
लास्ट टाइम में हमारा बर्थडे था जब
प्रभावित कर रही है.
इसके अलावा शिक्षकों की इन सर्विस ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम में बेसिकली भाषाई महत्व और रीजनल डिफरेंसेस को लेकर ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम जवाहर नवोदय विद्यालय है उसमें नहीं दिए जा रहे जिससे स्टूडेंट्स की प्रोग्रेस जो है वो इफेक्ट हो रही है। खास तौर से क्लास में जो एग्जाम्पल किए जा रहे हैं वो एग्जाम्पल स्टूडेंट्स से रिलेट करके ही नहीं है। जैसे जिस स्कूल का मैंने एग्जाम्पल लिया है वहाँ आसपास ना तो वहाँ आसपास कोई मॉल था ना कोई शॉपिंग मॉल, जिसकी वजह से ऐसे एग्जाम्पल कहीं ना कहीं
दुकान वाला पूछ रहा है।
अपने आप को जोड़ने से वंचित कर दिया। इसके अलावा कुछ ऐसे शब्द अपनी भाषा में थे लेकिन शिक्षक की भाषा में नहीं थे, तो कहीं ना कहीं कक्षा को दुरुस्त कर देते या नॉन इंटरेस्टिंग बना देते। जैसे अगर स्टूडेंट्स ने कोई वर्ड बोला है भाटा, जो राजस्थान की एक आंचलिक भाषा है लेकिन हरियाणा में उसका प्रयोग नहीं है, तो वहाँ पर शिक्षक शब्द को भाटे का सामान्यता राजस्थान में पत्थर होता है, तो उन शब्दों का क्लास में वो यूज नहीं हो पाता और टीचर उन बच्चों को एक्सेप्टेंस नहीं दे पाता। तो यहाँ मेरी सजेशंस हैं जो मैंने रिसर्च में फाइंड किए हैं। एक तो जब भी टीचर्स की अपॉइंटमेंट हो तो जिस जगह की अपॉइंटमेंट हो रही है वहाँ उनकी ट्रेनिंग पर्पज से भी की जानी चाहिए, यानी उस भाषा संस्कृति से उनको अवगत कराना चाहिए। दूसरा, टीचर्स की इन सर्विस और प्री सर्विस में लैंग्वेज के इम्पोर्टेंस को बहुत ही शामिल किया जाना चाहिए। शिक्षकों की भाषाई विविधता के प्रति उन्हें सेंसिटिव बनाने की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत है। स्कूल्स की कम्युनिटी के साथ एंगेजमेंट बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट होती है यहाँ पर। ऐसे में स्कूल और एंगेज करने की जरूरत है। क्लास में वही एग्जाम्पल ज्यादा से ज्यादा यूज किए जाए जो स्टूडेंट के अपने कॉन्टेक्ट के हो और उसके साथ साथ टीचर्स के समय पर डिस्कशन, सेमिनार, सिम्पोजियम होने चाहिए जिससे टीचर अपने आप से जुड़ा हुआ महसूस कर सके। थैंक यू सर।
तो very much Joginder ji, you have come out with very nice suggestions. Everybody will know that the JLB are working in a multilingual context because
end call नहीं है और दूसरा just leave
एंड कॉल में तो पूरा ही कट जाएगा।
पूरा का देगा सब लोग कौन-सी से मारते हैं तो काम।
अच्छा तुम बैठा है यानी तो हम तो जान पूरी ही कर देता।
So your suggestions are very
मालूम नहीं don't ask me
to your Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti. Thank you very much Joginder ji. Now
कहाँ जाएगा तू?
Excuse me sir, Ramila. Yeah, I just wanted to ask Joginder ji कि ये age group क्या था आपका? What was the age group of your children?
Class 6 to 10 student.
Okay, right.
Question at the end. Now Devajyoti ji आप start करें।
वो तो वो करे।
देवज्योति हमारा स्टूडेंट है।
तू उधर से करे।
ओके हाँ।
हम नहीं कर रहे।
वो फरीद कर रहे हो।
Very good evening to all of you, respected chair, co-chair, and then all of the intellectual mind present in this beautiful evening. The NEP 2020 is a groundbreaking document in Indian education system, which will lead this ancient civilization to become a Vishwagyan in cooperation with indigenous knowledge or the knowledge of India. Geography is a discipline where we study the different phenomena from a spatial perspective, where it can be the phenomena can be a human phenomena or can be a physical phenomena. And in geography, there are importance of in integrating indigenous knowledge is immense. And today I am going to highlight why and how we should integrate indigenous knowledge in teaching of geography. So I will just, due to the time because I will just skip it, and my objective is to understand why and how we can integrate indigenous knowledge in teaching of geography.
So,
Difference है
क्या difference?
indigenous knowledge and teaching of geography. So when we are speaking about next slide, please.
मिक्स करने को है
हाँ तो हाँ
2% नशा वो होता है दारू बियर 3% नहीं होता
Indigenous knowledge and teaching geography. So the indigenous knowledge, what we have taken for teaching geography, it should have at least two basic characteristics. One is geographical value and another one is pedagogical applicability. When we are speaking about geographical values, it means that whatever we have taken, what knowledge we have taken to teach in geography or geography classes, there should be some geographies. For example, if you're going to take some example where there are description of mountains or desert, that knowledge can have a geographical value. And second thing is pedagogical applicability. By this pedagogical applicability, it means that what knowledge we are taking to teach geography, it should focuses the age group, at what class and which class we are going to teach and how we are going to teach. For example, in primary school geography, the fairy tales or fables will be suitable for teaching geography. But on the other hand, in secondary schools, this will be not suitable, where we can take some realistic examples which can help in teaching geography. So the importance of teaching indigenous knowledge in geography. And the basic aim of school geography is to show the student the life of man on the earth's surface and to show how the life and environment have influenced